stars of the Pats special teams, makes the hit. John Elway, an off-season for him. He's going to have surgery in a couple of days on the elbow. Tony Dorsett has been a disappointment. Sammy Winder, consistent again. Mark Jackson, brilliant the last 3 games. Vance Johnson having his best season. Clarence Kay at tight end. The offensive line reads stuttered. The rookie Perry, Bryan, Jariga, and Lanier. From the 29, that's Dorsett at tailback. And Johnson in motion. Elway underneath. Almost intercepted on the ricochet as Mobley could not wrap it up. And it bounded into the midst of that defense of New England, and Johnny Rembert close to picking it off. And it has been a great defensive effort the last 9 games. 7-1 by New England. Brent Williams, Tim Goad, the rookie from North Carolina, on the nose, and Garen Barris back from injury. Andre Tippett again in the Pro Bowl. Ed Reynolds, Johnny Rembert, they felt he should have made the Pro Bowl. Lawrence McGrew are the linebackers. Ronnie Lepet, Fred Marion, Roland James, and Raymond Claiborne. 100 interceptions from those 4 men in the deep secondary.
Elway wants to get deep early. It wouldn't surprise me to see him going after them right here.
On 2nd and 10. To the sidelines and overshoots Vance Johnson. The coverage too good. Raymond Claiborne was there. The pass thrown right into the Denver bench.
The mental attitude of this Denver team such that I would believe the tempo of this game and perhaps even the outcome of this game determined in the first half of the first quarter of this game. And this is not a very auspicious start for Elway and the offense. Over this season, they have not shown the ability to come back. They did in their 2 Super Bowl seasons, but if they're down by any more than 7 points at the half, they simply don't bounce back, Dick.
And teams whose season will end today or have ended tend to play very well if they get ahead early, but if they fall behind, there's no emotional backdrop for them to support. 3rd and 10. Elway guns and hits Mark Jackson. Who else? Jackson from Purdue, hit by Raymond Claiborne. A first down out at the 42-yard line. 13 yards for Jackson, who has 41 catches, but what he's done in the last 3 weeks has been quite remarkable.
Talking to him yesterday, he said, you know, any other year, people would be excited about what I'm doing. Right now, they don't care. Well, you have to care when he comes up and makes that kind of big play for you. He got up off the ground, by the way, and talked to the official, said, hey, are you going to allow them to bump me around like that downfield?
He's looking for his 4th consecutive 100-yard receiving game. That would be a Denver record. You have to go back to the great Lionel Taylor to find anyone who's done it 3 straight times. Steve Sewell gets the carry out to the 44, where Ed Reynolds from Virginia makes the tackle. Couple of yards. It'll be 2nd down and 8. And there's an injured Patriot. It's the nose man, Tim Goad. And with it, a timeout. 13:41 remaining in the opening period. Just underway.
Of his ankle here, trying to keep him out of the play, comes right down on the ankle, and Goad goes down immediately, was helped off the field, and he is a rookie who has had a marvelous season, has produced as a starter through most of the year at that nose tackle position, has been replaced by Toby Williams on the nose.
2nd down and 8 for the Broncos at their 44. And it's complete at the 45-yard line of the Patriots. Claiborne with the tackle.
That pass looked like it got away from Elway, and not the traditional zipper that he throws. His violent throwing action reminiscent of a baseball fastball pitcher, but this ball fluttering all the way, and yet it is still complete.
Johnson really forcing Claiborne deep and then coming back to meet the ball, and an 11-yard gain. Might have been tipped there.
It could have been, but you see that ball shaking as it comes out of over the line of scrimmage.
Tony Dorsett down to the 42-yard line, maybe the 41. Of course, the word on Dorsett and the interest in the Dallas Cowboy camp on their former running stars, the fact that he was traded here to Denver for a number 5 choice, unless Dorsett gained 750 yards. In that case, it would be a number 3 pick. So Dallas rooting for Dorsett to have a big day.
One thing that really would concern me if I were Dan Reeves, they asked Tony Dorsett about his future here in Denver. He said, "I'm not worried about my future here. I really don't care." Well, my thought very simply, with that attitude, you probably don't have a future here.
Second down, 7. Just underway, first drive of the game. Elway guns, and Mobley drops his second. Ed Reynolds was the closest Patriot. Here's big Mobley, who lists at 6'5" and 256. He's probably closer to 270.
265 the last time we got a chance to look at him on a scale, but that's down 15 pounds from the weight he carried in 1987. He has been much more of a factor in the passing game during this season. He's also a pretty ferocious blocker, an extra tackle at that weight.
Elway from the shotgun. 4 wide receivers. And he's going deep. And Vance Johnson, no flag. As cutting him off in the corner was number 23, Rod McSwain. And McSwain had position. Johnson couldn't get around him. Now, a look at the pattern of this season for these teams. Offensively, the NFL average is 62% pass, 38% rush for all teams. The Broncos pass it much more than that, 69%, but not as much as Marino and Miami. They're in the 70s. Now, you're going to look for them to pass. The running game has not been effective. Just the opposite for New England. We'll show you that when they have the ball. Stanley Morgan, who has not returned punts since 1981, replaces Irving Fryer, who's not in uniform. That one's going to land well into the end zone as Mike Moran, who's made the Pro Bowl, the only Denver Bronco in the Pro Bowl. Moran, the punter, and that's the first time he's kicked the ball in the end zone all season long, the first touchback. New England has it when we return. Realistically, a very quiet Denver crowd. Here's the Patriots starters. Eason with Stevens, the brilliant rookie. Perriman, a good blocker. Morgan, the veteran, all-time pass catcher for New England. Cedric Jones with the injured Fryer, and Russ Francis, the tight end. They gave you the offensive line after this first play as Perriman goes in motion. And Stevens, who runs with both hands wrapped around that precious pumpkin, has a couple. And even his teammates have marveled at the rookie Stevens, the fact that he has 1,000 yards and he doesn't run with that ball swinging out there and using balance. He's a north-south runner, and he runs behind 5 outstanding blockers: Danny Villa, Sean Farrell, Mike Babb, Ron Wooten, and Bruce Armstrong. Armstrong from Louisville, a very young tackle at 23. In fact, he was the youngest starter in the league last year at 22. He's developing into one of the top talents at that position in the league. Stevens again, and the Broncos spearheaded by Carl Mecklenburg and Greg Cragen. Cragen, 71, the nose tackle, who leads Denver in tackles. He and Tim Crumry of Cincinnati with that rare possibility of leading a team from that position. Here's the defensive line of Boyer, Cragen, and Townsend. We think about changes for Denver defensively. Some might come at that position. Simon Fletcher, Carl Mecklenburg, Rick Dennison. Michael Brooks starts today, second-year man from LSU. Steve Wilson and Jeremiah Castile, a couple of soft corners. Dennis Smith and Mike Harden, the safety. Smith is tough hitter at that safety spot. Eason underneath to Morgan. He doesn't get the first down. He stopped at the 29 by Tyrone Braxton. So New England will have to punt the ball.
The key for this Denver team today, and it has been on the season, emotion. When they have come out and established themselves early in the ball game, they've been able to go on and win their share of games. When they have come out slow and had problems, they have not been able to bounce back and keep things going. A good start for the defense here today.
Fiegels to kick to Ricky Nattiel, who's back at the Denver 32. Strength of Fiegels' game, the height of his punt, once his hang time. Spiral that Nattiel, a dangerous catch, and he's down at the 38-yard line. Flags are down back at the line of scrimmage.
And I would guess, because that is not a very strong punt, that if it's an ineligible man downfield too quickly, that Denver might refuse the penalty and put their offense on the field.
Illegal motion, a 35-yard punt by Fiegels.
Illegal motion, offense, number 41. Penalty is declined. 1st and 10, Denver.
We should point out, Merlin Olsen, well, we will when we return, the home field advantage, how that really has been a factor for Denver. And New England has not scored a touchdown on grass this year. Tim Goad, his left ankle wrapped in ice, a sprained ankle, back for x-rays for New England. You know, at this time of the year, the one expression, especially the teams that have no future after this weekend, is we're playing for pride. That's a given. Aren't they playing for pride all season long?
Well, they're playing for pride. I think more realistically with a team like Denver, where they know the changes are in the wind, and particularly on defense, they're playing for job security. And that's something that's got to be the paycheck and the wallet are definitely involved here today.
Yeah, that's motivation. Scoreless first quarter. Sammy Winder up to the 44-yard line and a pickup of 6 yards. One of the things that we did not get a chance to chat with in our interview with Patrick Bolin was about Mike Shanahan, and he has some feelings about that. He said that while the offense has been okay, the loss of Shanahan at the last hour, and especially to the Raiders, was another part of the disappointment of this season. Said Al Davis's timing didn't exactly help us, and he took a good man away from us. The timing being that it was at the last hour where no other NFL assistants could be hired then by Denver to replace Shanahan. Whoa, Andre Tippett, the All-Pro, blasting through almost untouched to register a 3-yard loss.
They'll move Tippett around. He'll usually play on the left-hand side, but he frequently moves to the right, and he's stunning here behind Garin Veras. And you see how very quickly he moves around the blockers. They're talking to the offensive lineman for the Broncos. They were talking about, well, we hope that Tippett moves around. Nobody should have to block that guy all day by themselves. And that's the kind of respect that he has from the Bronco team.
40, 3rd down and 8. Elway going long and intercepted by the veteran Raymond Claiborne at the 45 to 50. And down to the 41 of Denver goes Claiborne with his 4th interception of the season. Mark Jackson, the intended receiver, made the tackle.
Raymond Claiborne, a 33-year-old cornerback. For 10 years, he was in the top 10 of cornerbacks in the NFL. An absolute marvel at what has to be the toughest physical position in the NFL to play. And he still has great anticipation. Lost a little bit of speed because of a knee injury last year, but still not a guy you want to mess with. See how closely he's covering on Vance Johnson and how well he responded to that football.
Actually, Johnson behind him had Elway floated it high, then Claiborne was in trouble, but he read it down to the 31-yard line and close to a 1st down. That makes 101. Claiborne with 35 career interceptions. Roland James 27. Fred Marion 21. Marion, by the way, leading the team in tackles this year.
This group has been together, Dick, since 1984, and the kind of cohesiveness that provides to have that kind of longevity. They literally think with each other. A tremendous advantage for a defensive secondary.
Ronnie Lepet, who may be the best of the lot, has 18 interceptions. Rick Dennison closing in on Perryman, and Mecklenburg is at it with 62, Sean Farrell. And flags go down. Midway through the opening quarter, no score. New England close to a 1st down at the 30-yard line. And it's going to be one of those negating double fouls. One nullifying the other. And they will now measure for the 1st down.
I hate that. I know that sometimes it can't be avoided, but I've always wanted to see somebody singled out. And if you can do that, you can kind of put a stop to that. When you waive offsetting fouls, it doesn't really say anything to anybody.
And it's enough for a New England first down at the 30-yard line. The Patriots in their last 9 games have won 7, and their 2 losses were by 3 points to Buffalo and 3 points to Indianapolis, games that Raymond Berry's team might well have won. So he has really rallied them after making some
77 Denver. Timmys are all set. First down.
Conscious changes in the offensive structure. Not passing the ball. He said he just, after 19 interceptions in the first 6 games, we're going to run it and play defense, take our chances, and the formula has worked. Left side. Mecklenburg makes the tackle down at the 24-yard line. 6 more for the rookie from Northwestern State, Louisiana. Now the offense, NFL average, as we told you, 62 pass, 38 rush, and for the Patriots, who run the ball more than any team, 50-50.
And I'm sure if you just looked at the last 8 or 9 games that number would drive up much higher on the rushing side, because they were pretty well balanced early in the year.
Only 1 pass for Eason. That was that short one to Morgan. That's Perriman, who played at Michigan, who drives down to the 23, but is hit hard by Townsend and Cragen for short yardage. It'll bring up 3rd down.
Coming into this ball game over the last 6 or 7 games, New England running a very high percentage of plays to the right, and yet here today against this Denver defense, they're going back to the left-hand side, anticipating, I'm sure, that Joe Collier will be stacking the defense and slanting to his defensive left, or to try and shut off that run to the right side.
Stevens trying to get outside, gets a great block, and he's on his way for a touchdown. What a block on the corner for Stevens, who runs right into the tool shed with 6 points.
Come on back, get out of those mowers and things. We need you back here on the field. A fine run, keyed by an outstanding block on the outside.
That was the longest run of the season for Stevens, who's piled up 1,000 yards with his longest 22 yards until now, a 23-yard touchdown run to give the Pats the early lead. Jason Starowski with the point after. And New England looking for a wild card has the early lead, 7-0. At Northwestern Louisiana State, John Stevens, who will start in the Pro Bowl as a rookie with his idol Eric Dickerson, has been productive already. 7-0. The kickoff down to Bell at the 5-yard line. And the former Boston College runner is out to the 26. Let's go back to the touchdown play and that tremendous block on the corner. From his 26, Elway to Dorsett. And Dorsett breaking into the open at the 40. 49-yard line of New England. Tony Dorsett. Flashes of yesteryear. Dorsett's longest run of the year.
Tony Dorsett has lost some of the leg strength, but he has not lost a great deal of speed. You give him an alley to run, and he can still motor. You see it there, run down from behind by number 38, Roland James, but his largest run of the year, and puts them down in New England territory.
Officially 26 yards, his longest previous run 21. And nothing much there for Sammy Winder, who is down to the 45 of New England.
Dorsett with just 1 carry last week, and it's obvious they're going to give him a chance to be more a part of the game plan here today.
15 carries the last 4 games for Dorsett, who is number 2 all-time to the great Walter Payton, on to Jim Brown, Franco Harris, and John Riggins. Jackson left, Johnson right. Elway from the shotgun. And that's incomplete. Ernest Gibson on the coverage of Jackson. And Elway too tall. Steve Sewell.
Andre Tippett is one of the most physical linebackers in football. In fact, he and Lawrence Taylor are the prototypes of the combo linebacker. A combo linebacker, one that can rush the passer, one that can play down at the point of attack, and then the kind of a linebacker that can also drop back into coverage. Tippett certainly with all three of those skills. And boy, I'll tell you, he is tough to stop when he gets up ahead of steam.
Patriots had their eyes on Tippett, and he was a bargain as the 41st player picked. All-America at Iowa. Offsides. The nose man, Toby Williams. Elway with a free down, and he can't find Ricky Nattil. Raymond Claiborne on the coverage.
They moved Brent Williams into the inside, and I believe, Dick, that it was Brent Williams rather than Toby that got offside on that last play, and they will have had to scramble because of the injury to Goad.
Offside. Defense. Number 96. 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down. Third down.
Brent Williams it was, so third down again for Denver, but they get 5 yards down to the 40-yard line. That'll bring up third down and a long 2. Those receivers down near the end zone on the far side will be staring right back into the setting sun. Elway looking for Jackson. Instead goes underneath to Dorsett, and he has a first down at the 31-yard line. Now Jackson cleared out and Dorsett underneath.
Ironic to see Dorsett catch that pass early in the season. They wanted Tony Dorsett to be more involved with the passing game. They had trouble throwing that pass. Elway has trouble with that finesse kind of flare pass to the outside. Dorsett, that's exactly the kind of pass that he can handle most effectively from his position as a tailback.
7-0 New England leads on a 23-yard touchdown run by rookie John Stevens. 4 minutes left. First quarter here in Denver. Sammy Winder on the draw. And he has good yardage inside the 25 of New England. About 7 behind the block of Orson Mobley. Fred Marion made the stop. Winder, who had been the top rusher for Denver the last 6 years, but will relinquish that unless he has a sensational day today, to Tony Dorsett. Dorsett with about a 140-yard lead on him coming into this final game. Winder crushed. 95 Ed Reynolds filling the hole, the linebacker from Virginia.
The Broncos often use Mobley, and you saw him coming across your screen there, number 89, as a lead blocker, an extra blocker in that situation. And in that situation, it was Keith Karts, number 72, missing the linebacker who was filling inside out. Had they picked him up, there would have been a little room, but boy, you don't want to do that. It's a rude hello for your running back when you give those linebackers a free shot.
No gain on the play, so it's 3rd and 4. And the Broncos from the shotgun will use 4 wide receivers. And there's Mark Jackson going out of bounds by Ronnie Lequette. And a first down, a gain of 7. Jackson, whose college quarterback was Jim Everett, who's had a sensational year for the Rams as he matures.
Right-hand side of your screen, and Lequette is not more than a step away, and with an ordinary quarterback, you can close that kind of gap. Lequette with good closing speed, but Elway's arm strength doesn't give defensive backs much time to respond. You give your man a step and a half, and Elway will get him the football.
Jackson with 2 of those 4 catches. And on first down, Dorsett to the 15-yard line. So Garen Veras in on the play along with Ed Reynolds. Veras' return from injury has been a key to New England's hopes down the stretch. They regard him as their top lineman. He played at Stanford, missed 5 games due to a knee injury, came back sooner than they had expected.
And he said he's 100%. I talked to him yesterday. He said that knee feels strong. He said, I feel like I'm back to 100% speed. And he is important with Tippett on the left side, the good pressure he can bring, and Veras back in the lineup. Those are the two best pass rushers on this team, and with both of them missing a lot of time this year, made it hard on them.
To the reverse to Natil, and then he pitches to Dorsett. And he's out of bounds at the 11, maybe the 12-yard line. Well, a little wrinkle there for Denver here in this final home game of the year. The option is Natil had a choice of staying with it or tossing back to Dorsett.
Well, you don't want your quarterback to run this option, but why not let Ricky Natil run it here? That's exactly what they do in this situation. Optioning number 38, Roland James, who did a fine job of reacting to that play to keep Dorsett from gaining more yardage.
Now, he did play it very well, did James.
And Dick, that's the kind of thing with no pressure on this Denver offense, you're going to see some strange wrinkles here today.
They trail 7-0. They're deep in New England territory on 3rd and 4. And there's Vance Johnson with a first down at the 6-yard line in front of Ronnie LePet.
An excellent read by John Elway. New England blitzing Ronnie LePet, the cornerback, from the outside, and Elway read it quickly, just simply turned and got that football off, put it in the air quickly enough to avoid the blitz.
And Roland James had to come over to cover on the play with LePet on the corner blitz, and Elway picked the right man, and a 1st and goal at the 6. Then an impressive drive that was ignited on Dorsett's run. Winder gets about 3. Tim Jordan and company make the tackle. The word on Tim Goad, serious sprained ankle, not expected to return today.
One of the things that John Elway does not want to do today is to fall on that right elbow. It's a bursa problem with that elbow, and it's an ugly thing to look at, but he said, I don't have any trouble with it unless I fall down on it. Well, there's another man who knows about injury, not in uniform today. Irving Fryer with a hamstring pull, right hamstring, exploded on a crucial catch in overtime, his second of that overtime drive that allowed New England to win last week against Tampa Bay.
Minute to go in the first quarter, and Denver trying to tie it up. On 2nd and goal, Elway has to throw it away. Clarence Kay was open, but Elway ran out of time.
Elway got up saying, I just needed another second. Pressure coming from the right-hand side. Lawrence McGrew, number 50, gets enough of a hand on Elway to put him down, and Elway's legs have taken a beating during this season. He missed a ball game earlier with an ankle injury after a hit in an Atlanta ball game. And cumulative hits over the season have taken their toll on him. He's lost some of that brilliant speed he came in with. But the one thing he has that is amazing is leg strength. Talking to their strength coordinator, and he said Elway's legs are as strong as our offensive and defensive linemen. He said not great upper body strength, but powerful legs.
So the penalty against New England with the automatic first down. And Elway given 4 downs from the 2. And it's through the hands of Clarence Kay, a certain touchdown. Before, no announcement made by the referee, apparently holding against New England. And the automatic first down. And here's Kay all by himself, and Elway with that rocket arm right through the hands of his tight end.
Most teams with a first down right down inside the 2-yard line are going to run that football. Denver Broncos do not have that power back, that power lead back, or a power back to give the football to. They have to be creative down inside that 5-yard line.
4 shots from the 1, so it must have been interference in the end zone because they took the penalty to the 1. Here's Winder for the touchdown. That was quite a drive by Dan Reeves' Broncos. 13 plays after the touchdown by Stevens of New England. And the Elway-led drive brings back the tying answer if Carlos can kick the extra point. Snap, and a good job by Kubiak to be able to scramble and get that ball teed up for Carlos. The game is even at 7. 74 yards in 13 plays for the Denver Broncos.
We talked about Orson Mobley coming in motion as a lead blocker. Watch Winder running right up in behind him as he opens up the can here. That's the kind of creative blocking you see. It's a trap block by Mobley, and a good reaction by Johnny Rembert, but not able to hold him down inside.
And Winder even at that, fighting and just getting that ball across the goal line. So the Patriots defense unable to stop Denver on that determined drive, and with 41 seconds remaining in the first quarter, it's a 7-all tie. Sammy Winder, not a brilliant running back, doesn't have the great speed, but solid he has been. You can just underline that when you talk about his talent.
You never have to question whether he's going to give you 100%. I can tell you that. And he is great at trapping. He's great at wiggling and winding and swinging his way through those tight little crevices. And that's exactly what he had to do on that particular play.
Carlos to kick it off. Sandy Martin comes up to get it at the 80s. Return one for a touchdown this year. This week from LSU. And he's to the 29-yard line. He has terrific speed, does Martin. Michael Brooks made the tackle. And New England, with time running out here in the first quarter, comes on the field. Eason with just the one throw. 4 yards to Morgan. Stayed on the ground, and Stevens the primary ball carrier.
There's never been any question about Tony Eason's athletic ability. A fine athlete, not only in football but other sports as well. It was his competitive desire that people questioned. He seems to have come back from this injury much more competitively, much more emotionally.
It was really emotional in the win against Tampa Bay last week underneath to Stevens. And the rookie shows he can receive it as well. Has a first down at the 43. Rick Dennison, the tackler.
Some players come into this league with maturity. John Stevens has never really been a rookie. He came in like a veteran, has played like a veteran. And so many rookies have trouble toward the end of the year. They simply cannot stand up to the long season. I'm sure it's worn on him. In fact, it's taken about 15 to 20 pounds off his frame during the season, but it has not stopped him from being effective.
End of the first quarter at Mile High Stadium. The Patriots looking for a wild card, and the Broncos are tied. Busier on the ground than anyone in the NFL, keeping that up today. As they describe it in New England, they sometimes run off guard, sometimes they run off tackle, sometimes they run between guard and tackle.
And when you're running as many times as this team is running, you've got to have tough running backs, and they're really blessed that way. And Perriman and Stevens, in fact, Stevens was an offensive lineman in high school, and his high school coaches told Raymond Berry, we'd like to see how he could do on defense. And Perriman was recruited by Penn State. They wanted him as a linebacker. So you're talking about a couple of real tough ball carriers and a tough blocker ball carrier in both cases as well.
Stevens will sit this play out, and it's Perriman with Elgin Davis in the backfield behind Eason. And Perriman, the fullback, gets the call out to the 47-yard line. Cragen made the tackle. Mecklenburg was there as well. Kevin Guidry has replaced Jeremiah Castile at the corner now for Denver.
Greg Cragen is by all odds the kind of guy that should not be in a Denver uniform. After the season last year and their loss in the Super Bowl, they said, we've got to get bigger and stronger inside. They did not find anyone to replace him. They drafted Ted Gregory, #1. Gregory was a bust. And Greg Cragen, number 71, has had an outstanding year. Quick, agile, and smart.
Perriman again. And he's to the 50 and plows to the 49 of Denver. He'll be shy of a first down by about 2.
Dick, the word finesse is one that is used often to describe not only this Denver defense, but the Denver offense as well. They want to fool you, both offensively and defensively. They want to shift. They want to stunt. Offensively, they want to fool you with formations and motion. The problem with playing that kind of finesse football on both sides of the line of scrimmage is that you lose a lot of your aggressiveness. And I think in the process, you lose a lot of the physical nature that you need when you match up against power teams. And when we're talking power, we're talking about a number of the teams in the NFC in particular. And you look at those last Super Bowl matchups in particular as well.
Right. Those are the first symptoms of the disease here in Denver. Eason floats one out to Mosi Tutupu, the veteran from Southern California, and it appears to be enough for a first down. Jim Ryan on the coverage.
And did Tutupu know exactly where that marker was, made by inches? Mosi Tutupu slowing down a little bit after so many great years. But on my all-time underrated team, this is the fullback right here. Has just had an incredible career in New England. Never missed a football game. How do you think about that? Think about that for a second.
Mosi Tutupu, and he won't hurt you on special teams.
Oh, no. One of the all-time great special teamers.
Here comes the rookie Stevens after sitting out the last series. Perriman getting the call. It's Stevens blasting for 5. Dennison and Wilson collaborate on the tackle. Stevens, whose body fat is 7%. You said he lost weight. He was listed at 220 at the start of the year. He's down around 205 now. And some were worried that that might reflect a problem, but not so.
Trainer's not worried about that. He had built himself up through a lot of weightlifting, and it's hard to sustain that during the season, even though this New England team lifting twice a week during the season under Raymond Berry and working on their strength constantly. But it's hard to hold that kind of bulk when you're playing as hard as Stevens has been playing.
2nd and 5. Stevens again trying to get outside and has the speed to turn the corner inside the 40. He'll be short of the first down. Harden and Guidry with the tackle.
Very often when you see a play like this, you look up ahead at the block. Watch 34, Perriman, right there on 56, Brooks, making it possible for that little bounce out to the outside. There's no question about how badly he wants that yardage. He'll do whatever it takes to get it. He is especially dangerous, by the way, when he can bounce outside.
Well, the Patriots have run left 6, middle 3, right 2. That's usually just the other way around. They run to the right side, so they're trying to mix it up today against Denver. That's a short 2 for the first down, and it's Perriman who's going to be close. Mecklenburg submarining in with Cragen to make it difficult.
I don't think he's going to get it. In fact, the official is saying 4th down, and you see there what an important cog Mecklenburg is to this defense. And of course, his missing 6 games and playing with one hand for 2 really put a damper into not only the physical nature of this defense, but the emotional nature as well. That's Mecklenburg at the bottom of that stack, who was able to just get his hands on the legs there and trip up the ball carrier, keep him from getting that first down.
Now the ball at the 37 of Denver, and 4th and about a yard. Raymond Berry is not going to gamble. Ricky Nattiel waiting for Jeff Fiegel's punt. And a flag is down.
Game. Offense number 6.
Taking their time, and that'll give Fiegels a little more time. You heard referee Hantek say that you don't have to take the penalty.
Well, a lot of times a team wants that yardage because that's an awkward distance to kick from. The kicker has to pull back a little bit, and he has trouble controlling the football.
Fiegels, who didn't always get a lot of opportunity to kick for the Miami Hurricanes, they didn't fall back into punt formation very often.
They have to dust him off when they needed him. It's a little bit tough back there for these receivers, although shade is covering now a good section of the field. Sun bright behind this kicker. Beautiful. High kick. Too far. That's the thing they worry about. They try and kick the soft one, and it's like hitting a golf ball. Away it goes.
So Fiegels nails it into the end zone. It'll be the touchback for Denver. They'll take over at the 20. We're in the 2nd quarter here at Mile High Stadium, and the Patriots and the Broncos are still even. The rookie noseman for New England has returned to the sidelines. Earlier reports said he wouldn't play today, but he looks like he might be ready to go. He's strapping that helmet on. Elway out of the backfield to Winder. And Winder gains 6 before Johnny Rembert can drag him down. Sammy Winder from southern Mississippi, and here comes Goad back on the field. So he did recover in a hurry.
Goad back on the field. And Dick, one of the changes that this New England team has made in their defense, they were at the beginning of the year playing two-gap defense. But as they got into the season, they realized they were going to have to start playing. Well, go ahead and turn that one loose, fellas. We'll have to get back to the line to see where they are in the gaps. But they have gone to gap-type defenses to get away from the holding.
Winder on 2nd and 4, slashes to a first down and more before Fred Marion can make the open field tackle at the 33. The Broncos are running the ball well, and that's been a key to the last drive and maybe this one.
Surprisingly well. This is not a strength of this is not a strength of Denver's offense. In fact, not able to really generate a running game so very often during the year has forced them to rely so heavily on the pass and so heavily on Elway that they have become just an absolutely one-dimensional team, and the run game important to them here today.
Dorsett, and like a young pony out to the 39-yard line. Williams gets him from behind.
In earlier games, during a time when Dorsett was not being effective, we have watched him hesitate very frequently at the line, and I think that may be Goad down again. No, it's Brent Williams down. Number 96. Williams, who had missed this entire week because of his mother's death, is slow to get up here today.
So we have a timeout at the 8:51 mark. Denver running the ball effectively in this first half against New England. It's tied at 7. 8 minutes and 46 seconds left in the opening half. And Denver 2nd down and 4 at their 40. A long 3 then. Tony Dorsett. Yeah, he's visited the Fountain of Youth this week. He's running like the Dorsett of old behind the block of the 300-pound rookie from Southern, Gerald Perry.
Perry, who had his off-the-field troubles early this week, has started a number of ball games. A very physical and athletic 300-pounder plus. And Dorsett in this ball game, Dick, we'd earlier seen him hesitate so often as he came to the line and be tentative in his cuts. Very positive and aggressive here today.
Dorsett on Winder now, the lone setback behind Elway. Off the line of scrimmage is Ken Lanier.
If you're wondering why Lanier got up early, you look across the line and you see Andre Tippett. Now Tippett is so quick off the ball.
Number 76, 5-yard penalty.
That Lanier knows that he's got to get back. Watch, 76, bottom of your screen, and his total concentration is on number 56. And he lost his concentration, unfortunately, on the count. He is one of the, in fact, I think the most underrated tackle in football. And if he can short set even a great pass rusher, it's the battle is virtually over. The battle between those two today is a classic one.
Brent Williams, who left the field, is okay and has now returned. Elway gets out of the pocket. And Johnny Rembert watches the slide at the 45 as Elway ducks down after a 2-yard gain. Despite the battle with the legs and the hits for Elway, he has rushed for 225 yards this year and is the first quarterback in NFL history to put a consecutive string together. You just see Tippett's rush on Elway.
Tippett obviously blocked on that play, but has a chance at Elway here on that slide. A wise one for Elway, who does not want to get himself hurt here in this final game of the season.
There it is, the first to have 4 consecutive seasons, 300 yards passing and 200 yards rushing. 2nd and 13, and he throws it away. Clarence Kay was within 20 yards of the ball, so Elway said, that's the man I was looking for.
2 linebackers coming on that play, and Elway with nowhere to go. Right-hand side of your screen, 52 Rembert and 50 McGrew. There they go. Actually, McGrew from the left-hand side and Rembert outside on the right. Rembert's had a fine year, given the opportunity to step in because of an injury to Ed Williams. And Raymond Berry pulled him aside and said, you're going to have a chance to have a Pro Bowl season, but you've got to get serious. You've got to get in there and go to work. And Rembert responded to that, has kept his weight down, which had been a problem in the past, and has come through with an excellent football season.
Good time for Elway, and there's a man open, Mark Jackson. He's at the 30 and out of bounds at the 23. A flag is down in the secondary. 31 yards if for Mark Jackson. And that one's going to count.
Well, let's see. It could conceivably be an offensive interference call, and if it's not, then it will count.
Well, he signaled defensive holding.
No, then it's going to count. You had the advantage on me.
So Mark Jackson looking for another 100-yard day.
Holding. Defense, number 42. Penalty is declined. First down.
And so his third catch of this first half, and he now has unofficially 51 yards, so he's halfway there.
He has replaced Vance Johnson as the big play man on this roster. And Johnson, who had had that status for several years, has been injured a good part of the year, playing with a bad foot. And Jackson really has stepped forward to take charge. And the three amigos have, well, they really haven't been three full-fledged amigos this year. It's been Jackson more often than not to come up with the big plays.
Certainly in the last 4 games. The fake draw to Winder, then he throws to Winder. Good play, and a gain down to the 15-yard line. A fake to Winder, and New England saw the fake, let Winder slip through the line of scrimmage, and then Elway just dumped it off to him in an 8-yard gain. Oh, and a 7-all tie here in the second quarter. Denver threatening to take the lead.
Working to use the versatility of this offense. Of course, Elway, a perfect trigger man, able to get back, get good vision on the field, and a very quick delivery. So hard for a defense to react to.
Second and short for Elway. Underneath to Kay, and a first and goal at the 5-yard line. Rembert and Tippett, the tacklers, but Denver moving the ball well. Tim Jordan in on the play.
Clarence Kay had a neck injury in the opening game against Seattle, and that injury kept him out of a couple of ball games, but it did something else to him. It made him a little less aggressive. He was a great blocker early in his career. He is not as willing to stick his head in there today, and I don't blame him for that, but he is compensated by improving as a receiver.
Tony Dorsett for the touchdown, untouched. Here in Denver must be wondering, where was Dorsett when we needed him in some of those losing games. He has really run well today.
That's Dorsett's first touchdown in 12 weeks, Dick, and it couldn't come at a better time for Denver. Igniting these fans, giving them an opportunity to sustain some emotion and keep that first half flair alive and going. We mentioned how important that is to this Denver team.
Adds the extra point, and Tony Dorsett's 91st career touchdown has given the Broncos the lead, 14-7. Fiesta Bowl for the collegiate championship. Everywhere but Miami, they still think they're number one, and rightfully so. Elgin Davis, with flags down, is finally pushed out of bounds by the kicker Carlos. Flags are dropped back at the 20-yard line. And it is against the Patriots. So a 44-yard return is nullified. And Raymond Berry's Patriots, with a win, simply would be a wild card team, but Denver trying to be nasty hosts.
And there was the penalty right there on the tight end as he hit from the backside. Steve Johnson trying to do a job, but got on the back of the shoulder.
Illegal block on the return, number 85, penalized 10 yards, first down.
Chance to watch that last play. Double team inside right here. A block out, the key block thrown right here by Winder to allow Dorsett to come into the end zone. Really a fine play. And Winder just unloads on number 52, Johnny Rembert. Look at that block inside to spring Dorsett into the end zone.
Well, whenever you see a great run, often that other guy in the backfield is ignored, and he is a key. Eason's pass is shy of Cedric Jones. Kevin Gidry on the coverage. And you can see Eason does not have the powerful arm. And for those of you who are not following the NBC's coverage last week, Eason's thumb still does not have 100% feeling. So when you think about it, if you're holding a football and you're trying to throw the ball hard or long, that thumb is really the pressure you need for control and power, and he just doesn't have it yet.
It's the motor nerves that were injured in that right hand, and he said they're getting better all the time. But Eason, who was such a natural thrower, now has to think about that throwing motion.
Lobs this one out, complete to Stanley Morgan. And Morgan, who had 501 catches coming into this game, is out of bounds with a first down after that pickup. 12 yards on the play. Well, Cincinnati's Bengals in overtime beating the Washington Redskins. They know they don't have to play next week and will host the following. And for the Patriots, a win today, they'll play either Houston or Cleveland. They would guarantee the wild card. They'll play Houston if they beat the Browns tomorrow. They play Cleveland if the Browns beat Houston. And they're still alive even with a loss. But Cleveland and Buffalo and Indianapolis all figure in that. Indianapolis would have to lose. Stevens. Boy. 31-yard line, but what blocking out in front.
The thing I like about Stevens, you watch him run, he really attacks the tackler. And that was a quality that I always was impressed with in Walter Payton. In fact, Payton rarely got into a tight situation where he didn't unload on the guy who was trying to get at him. Stevens said it's his philosophy, and he followed Payton in this, that if he's the one that's doing the hitting, he's not going to get hurt as badly as the guy that's trying to tackle him.
3 more yards for him, or 7 more, so it's 2nd and 3. And Stevens hit hard at the line of scrimmage. Dennis Smith coming up in strong safety to make the tackle. Stevens falling forward to the 32. He'll be about a half-yard shy, would appear, of a first down.
These Bronco defenders know that there are going to be big changes on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage. And this last game and their performance in this last game will leave a final impression in the minds of the coaches, in the minds of Dan Reeves, and those who will be evaluating. Joe Collier will not be here. Many of his staff will be gone. Many of the players in those uniforms on Denver defense will be gone. And they want to play well here today.
Stevens again, and he almost fought his way through the entire pack and would have had a touchdown. It took the whole team to get him down, and the last wave was there to trip him up at the 37-yard line, Dennison and Dennis Smith.
And you want to ask the question, Dick, how many more yards would Stevens have on the year if he ran with one arm on the ball? There's no question it takes away some of his mobility, some of the quickness in his cutting.
John Stevens, 5th behind some great talent: Dickerson, Craig, Herschel, Bell. How about Ickey Woods today for Cincinnati? There's another great rookie in the AFC. Stevens. He's to the 49-yard line, and another first down before Mecklenburg can get to him.
Just going back to that one arm around the ball, two arm around the ball philosophy. If he were carrying with one arm, I'm sure you would have more fumbles. And you mentioned he's only had one fumble on the season, a most secure carrier of the ball. And those fumbles cost you a lot of yardage and cost you field position and opportunities to score. So I'm sure the Raymond Berry willing to give up some yardage just to be sure that that ball is secure.
Boy, played that last one like a 10-year veteran. He took off the linebacker, knocked him off stride, went out, caught the pass. Eason to Morgan, and the veteran has a first down at the 39 of the Broncos. Kevin Gidry playing very loose on the corner, the rookie from LSU.
Without Mark Haynes in the lineup, Gidry getting a chance to play, and the rookie, who has seen very little action, of course, moved in because Steve Wilson is starting over at that left cornerback position. I'll tell you, there are a lot of faces back there that would scare me if I was a defensive coordinator. And that's one thing you have to say about Collier. He has operated here without a great many pieces to work with.
Is it his fault that they apparently have not drafted well on defense here in Denver?
Well, we know they haven't drafted well on defense. That's an established fact.
Reggie Dupart gets his first call of the day, and Dennison greets him after about a yard gain.
Good example of that, as we mentioned, with Ted Gregory, their #1 pick, was supposed to be an impact player.
New England Patriots, so much at stake for them, and they know that a wild card is not to be something thrown away, because you need not be embarrassed. It was as a wild card team 3 years ago. They went all the way to New Orleans in the Super Bowl. They trail 14-7, 2 minutes to go in the half. It's second down and 8. Eason showing pretty good mobility, while Boyer bounces him out of bounds at the 35.
You mentioned that trip to New Orleans in the Super Bowl. They share some Super Bowl nightmares with the Denver Broncos in their very one-sided loss to the Chicago Bears. They know what it feels like to go through a season remembering and being reminded of how poorly you played in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's one of the arguments that Denver is using now, that they had such a short season because of being in the Super Bowl. Is that legitimate? I mean, it's only another month.
They've had 2 years, though, of intense pressure, and with that Super Bowl came a lot of off-season responsibility as well. They've had 2 intense years of pressure and extra playoff games, and I think they've paid a price for it emotionally.
That's not the physical, but the emotional. The direct snap is to Tutupu, and a flag down as Steve Wilson makes the tackle at the 30. And it's motion against New England.
New England trotting out a few tricks of their own, a play that we have seen the Houston Oilers use very effectively. The direct snap to the running back.
Well, even if you count the play, it appears to be short by a yard of a first down. But they take
illegal
the
motion. Offense, number 30, penalized 5 yards. Repeat the down. Third down.
They don't want to flirt with a fourth and 1 or 2.
Now they're concerned that Barry may go with it. It's Tutupu apparently that's getting an early start and not used to taking this direct snap. Right-hand side of your screen, number 30, and you see him sliding forward. Now he can legally move, but he cannot slide forward. And I think what they're saying is that he was moving forward as that ball was snapped.
Big play for the Patriots, trailing 14-7. Eason has his man, and it's a first down at the 24 to Morgan. And are they ever playing soft on Stanley Morgan? Even though Eason does not have the strength of arm, and it seems the ball's taking a long time getting there, Morgan's so wide open it doesn't matter.
This Denver secondary has had injury problems all year long. They lack a great deal of speed. They're not able to keep up with some of the faster receivers. Dennis Smith from his safety position well off on that play.
Game back in New England. He's probably telling them, well, you ought to see how I handle Stanley when we get to the dress shop. They own a dress shop together down in Tennessee. That's when she's the boss.
Morgan, an incredible story and his longevity. Although he has a coach, Harold Jackson, that put in 17 years in the NFL, and he credits Jackson's advice on taking care of himself physically for his longevity.
What a big throw for New England on 3rd and 11. Eason gets the first down at the 24. This is Reggie Dupart, who played at SMU. And he's inside the 20-yard line. Let's check the clock now. Minute 23, and the clock stopped for the moment as the Patriots call timeout.
We mentioned the importance of the early going for Denver, and they have got to be thrilled to be up here in the first half of this game. In the last 5 games, they've been outscored 135-17 in the first half.
Well, we have the day off tomorrow, Merlin, and I'm looking forward to watching 2 games on NBC. Do we have a doubleheader for you with such strong playoff implications? How about that first game after NFL Live? At 12:30 at 1 o'clock, Houston and Cleveland will kick it off, and the winner goes to the playoffs. Buffalo at Indianapolis. Buffalo, there's still some importance there for home field. In Indianapolis, who knows, depending on the game today, the Colts, stranger things have happened. Miami at Pittsburgh play out the year. But then after watching the first game, how about Seattle and the Raiders? The winner represents the west of the AFC, avoids the wild card extra game, and Kansas City at San Diego, where rumors are both those coaches are in serious trouble.
And only 2 of those games not meaningful in terms of who is going to play in the playoffs. That's interesting, isn't it?
Second down for Eason. Underneath he goes to the rookie Sammy Martin for short yardage. Jeremiah Castillo makes the tackle, a 4-yard pickup. No huddle for the Patriots. Third down and call it 2. Patriots have 2 timeouts left. Ooh, what a hit at the 16-yard line, short of the first down. Dennis Smith again.
Fourth down, a choice for Barry. Do you go for the field goal here, or do you try and pick it up? It's third and a healthy 2 yards to go.
Well, it's fourth now after that play.
Fourth. I mean, do you go for it on fourth or take the field goal?
They mark it at the 15, Merlin, excuse me. So it's fourth and a long one, and Barry wants to think about it.
I don't blame him. A critical situation. And when you have a good, solid running game, you do have some options in a situation like this.
You were talking about Barry being the most unique coach in the NFL. What did you mean by that?
Absolutely unique. You talk to this man, he is without ego. He is without ego, and he runs a camp. He coaches as he would like to have been coached, with great regard for the input of the players. He'll ask them, how do you feel? He is very careful about maintaining their conditioning during the season. In other words, not working them too hard. He said, I want them ready to play on Sunday. If they feel that they need some time off, he'll give them time off. He'll do whatever he can to get them out on the field at maximum productivity on a Sunday. And then he is the last guy who wants to take any credit. Almost selfless and totally unselfish.
Who's the antithesis of Barry in the NFL?
Well, Jerry Glanville, I would say, and in his own way, a very unique players to coach. But he is about as flashy as they get, and as dramatic as they get, if you will.
He's going to go for the field goal. It'll be 32 yards. Skorowski, who has missed some short ones, hits this one right down the middle. So Barry, figuring why leave without something, wants to go into that locker room with the field goal and gets it. A 32-yard kick by the former Tulsa man. He went to Tulsa as the team manager, became the field goal kicker, and is, like so many kickers, has tried to find a place for 3 years, and he's never forgotten, he said, the big referee in the sky when he hits one. He points up saying, hey, sometimes I missed him and I forgot to thank the good Lord.
Well, he's had some good fortune in arriving in New England. This is his 7th team. Well, that's a lot of opportunities to kick the football, and he's pleased to have had a chance to stick around.
14-10. Now, as Denver apparently with 31 seconds left, might just run out the clock. We'll see what Reeves has in mind. There's really been a formula here late in the season, hasn't there? The teams that are out of it, and we had an example last week, the Jets. Monday night we had an example, Miami. Today, Denver. If you let them get ahead early, those teams that the season may be over play like they're going into the playoffs. And here's another case in point. The Broncos getting off early. Washington today early against Cincinnati.
So important to establish that momentum. We talked about Denver's difficulties in doing that. Well, they've been able to hold it out here so far in the first half of this ballgame.
New England, like Cincinnati, carries 2 kickers on the roster. Teddy Garcia with a kickoff, and Bell takes the touchback at the 20.
That lead on the scoreboard, even more important when you consider that down by 7 or more points, Denver has been unable to come back all year. So they like being able to look up there at halftime and say, hey, we got the lead.
And if you look at the history of these two teams, and New England seems to always play in Denver, the Patriots in the last 4 games here at Denver have either been ahead or tied at halftime and lost all 4.
Well, maybe they say this is different. We're behind at the half. Now maybe we can come back and win.
Elway looking very loose as he left the sidelines. Maybe there's a little surprise in the works here. Now, straight ahead goes Winder. And he has 8 or 9 yards before Ed Reynolds.
I think it's going to give him a turnover on that.
Hold on. This would really be something with 19 seconds left. The clock's still running. And now timeout call.
Question of where the whistle was blown, because the ball stripped away. They deliberately went inside and tried to yank that football out of the arms. Were able to pop it loose, and I think the officials are talking about, was the whistle blown? No,
New England.
It's not blown.
Roland James steals it, and with it, Dan Reeves may just see that lead stolen here at the end of the half.
And what seemed to be an absolutely routine play turns into what possibly could be a critical opportunity. Ed Williams holding him up, and Roland James just reaching inside and hooking that football and performing some grand larceny right there. See him stripping that ball away. No question, he had it before Dorsett hit the ground.
Before Sammy Winder, and Winder rarely fumbles.
Now they're looking upstairs. Winder, in fact, I think that's the... Was that Winder or Dorsett? That's
Winder.
It was Winder. The first fumble of the year then for Winder. Did not have a fumble going into the day.
That was a case where the linebacker Reynolds actually holds up Winder and tackling him. He keeps him up long enough for James to slip in and go for the ball.
Of course, that's the kind of play that Barry works on. The first thing he did when he took over as a head coach in
Play
New England
called on the field.
was to talk to his team about takeaways and giveaways, about ball security, and about stripping the football away from the opponents. And he was able to get his team to turn those numbers around.
The scoreboard had been late on the timeouts used. New England has used all of their timeouts, so they have a play or two, perhaps. They're in field goal range. Eason, plenty of time, throws it away. 10 seconds left. And we'll see whether or not Barry sends in the field goal unit right now. It's out of Starowski's reasonable range at the moment. They might go to Teddy Garcia, who has a stronger leg, if not as accurate.
Now Barry feels that Garcia may have a 60-yarder in him, and will give him opportunities on anything over the 45 range.
Garcia, number 7. Cedric Jones has to get out of bounds, and that was the key to that play. He buys a little yardage down to the 23-yard line, 6 yards on the play. And here comes the field goal unit, and it will be Starowski.
You think he was listening to you when he said has to get out of bounds? He looked like he lit the afterburners heading for the sideline.
And this one will be from outside the 30, so about 40 yards plus. His longest of his 7 successful field goals has been 35 yards. So this would be by 5 yards the longest of the year for Jason Starowski, who misses to the left.
That was not a good snap. Eagles did a good job of getting that ball down, but it threw off the timing of the kicker, Starowski.
All right, Bob Costas back along with Ahmad Rashad in New York. The Broncos leading at 14-10. The Patriots could have moved to within a point, but the Jason Starowski field goal attempt from about 40 yards misses off target, and so they can't take advantage of really a theft by Roland James, not so much a fumble by Sammy Winder. James just reached in and yanked it free, and the Pats had a chance to capitalize but could not. They trail 14-10, and even though on a neutral field you'd have to say that this year's Patriots, winners of 6 of their last 7, are the stronger team, you get into Mile High, where the Broncos, as we said on the pregame, are always good, and the Patriots are a 2-5 team on the road. You got a toss-up game.
I think the Patriots will have a rallying point because they get no respect at all. Here's a team, if they win, they go right into the playoffs. Denver is out of it, and all we hear the whole first half is people talking about Denver this, Denver that. I really think the third quarter should be the telling quarter because Denver, they'll play them tough as long as they stay close, but I got a feeling that Raymond Berry will give the big speech at halftime, tell them they got one more half or their season's over. They'll respond, and I think they'll take over in the third quarter.
Well, a fine day in December in Denver, and it was a good first half for the Broncos, who lead New England. Patriots playing for the wild card, 14-10. Here's the scoring, the longest run of the year for John Stevens. Started it off for the Patriots as he rumbled 23 yards to give the Pats a 7-0 lead. It was the first touchdown scored by New England on grass in December in Denver, and it was a good first half for the Broncos, who lead New England. Patriots playing for the wild card, 14-10. Here's the scoring, the longest run of the year for John Stevens. Started it off for the Patriots as he rumbled 23 yards to give the Pats a 7-0 lead. It was the first touchdown scored by New England on grass in 10 quarters this year. But back came Denver. John Elway using his backs. Dorsett had a long run, and then Winder capped the drive with a 1-yard plunge to make it 7-all. And then it was Elway again. This time Dorsett behind a crushing block by Winder to give the Broncos a 14-7 lead. And why is it that Denver suddenly running the football so well?
Well, they want to make me look bad, Dick. I said all they had was Elway back there, and they've come out and added some dimension. And I've got to say this, that they're responding emotionally to this last game, and as they had to do, and they got off to a fast start as they had to do. And now the important thing is to sustain through the second half of this ball game against a team that New England has not played as well as we expected them to play so far.
Now, we have it from reliable authorities that Joe Collier and his defensive assistants will be released after this game. So Denver will do a house cleaning on that side of the football. And I've got to think that in some ways that Collier and Reeves have used that emotionally to spark this team, because they like Collier. The players like this man.
He has been a very popular coach with them, and his 20 years here in Denver have made him the kind of figure that is, oh, it's almost heretic, kind of a heretical. How would we say that, Dick? It's a horrible thought for a lot of folks to see a Denver team without a Joe Collier. And yet Reeves, who inherited Collier, would like to see a system and a coach that is more compatible with his beliefs on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage. And there's no question in my mind that although Collier will end up being a scapegoat to some degree, that there are changes that must be made, and perhaps this is the best way to go about doing it.
And maybe the best thing for Collier himself. This second half kickoff, which will be received by New England, is sponsored by Budweiser, the king of beers. Rich Carlos tees it up. Sammy Martin and Elgin Davis are deep for the New England Patriots, who get the ball first to start the second half, trailing 14-10. A win for New England, and they are the wild card. A loss, and it'll take some doing for them to get into the playoffs. Brilliant, high spinning kickoff that will be taken for the touchback. Gives us a chance to look at the official statistics in the first half.
Oh, maybe we won't. Yes, we will. There they are. The one thing that is not on there that it's important to note is that Denver is 5 of 7 in third down situations against the defense that leads the league in that category. The stats pretty even as you look down. 2 turnovers by the Broncos, a critical stat there. And of course, one of them, they were very fortunate right at the end of the half that did not cost them 3 points.
Stevens with 65 yards and Dorsett with 57, the leading rushers. And Stevens gets his number called to open the second half and is out to the 26-yard line, a gain of 6 more. In fact, Stevens, with his receiving, had a total of 90 yards of the Patriot offense in the first half. Oh, he is a good-looking back, isn't he? Receivers, Morgan 4 catches for 44, and Stevens 2 for 25. Mark Jackson halfway there to make it 4 consecutive weeks for 100 yards receiving. No one's ever done that in Denver history. Eason handing off to Stevens, tripped up for a loss. Dennis Smith and Kevin Guidry. No, it's with Carl Mecklenburg in there to assist, but it's Smith who has played a big game defensively for Denver, perhaps playing for his coach Collier.
Dick, one of the things that you look at Mecklenburg and you see the number of seasons, the number of games he missed. He also played 2 games with that hand in such a state that he ended up breaking one of the pins loose in that hand. And that, you look at that cast, he's got a dowel inside that cast. His hand is wrapped around the dowel, and then there are screws on both sides to keep the cast from twisting.
Talk about playing with one arm tied behind your back. Eason under pressure, and almost a ball up for grabs as Morgan has it knocked away by Harden and Braxton. And the Denver defense answers the call again. Mecklenburg and Rulon Jones, the pass rushers, applying heat on Eason. Well, that fumble at the end of the half and Denver denying New England any points may have been an emotional spark for the Broncos.
And then to come right out and 3 and out on defense gives your opportunity excellent field position, or should give them excellent field position, and Mateo maybe can get them some even better field position with a return here.
Jeff Beagles. It's a high wobbly boot. Mateo, no fair catch. Gambled, and no one hit him immediately at the 34-yard line. The flag is down at the line of scrimmage. Vincent Brown, a rookie, made the tackle. 40-yard punt. Ineligible man downfield.
I think they'll ask him to kick that one again. That was a long kick.
Apparently not. Reeves sends the offense on.
That's interesting.
Well, it's a
Ineligible
tough time.
receiver. The offense, number 59, downfield. Penalty is declined. 1st and 10, Denver.
So Denver dominating the series, but Denver also having the advantage of hosting the series. It just worked out that way with a computer.
In fact, New England, in part of their press release, described their stadium. They said a lot of your players have never seen Sullivan Field at Foxborough.
So from the 35, Elway comes out throwing. And it's Mobley incomplete. He was open at the New England 48. It's starting to say emotionally how tough it is for a team that's been enjoying the success of a Super Bowl appearance, Denver, and then to go 8-8, and yet know that if they should win and go 8-8, if they go 8-8, they'll tie for first place in the AFC West, maybe. And at that, they can look at a couple of plays this season and they could be in the playoffs again, and yet you would think it would have been total disaster striking Denver.
Well, the one game that Dan Reeves will still have nightmares about 10 years from now is that loss to the LA Raiders here when they were ahead 24-0 at the half.
Elway having trouble as he pulled back. Now throws to Jackson. Not much there as he's tackled immediately at the 40. Andre Tippett and company. 5 yards for Jackson.
One thing that this New England defense has not done well during the year is to rush the quarterback. They've only had 28 sacks on the year. That's well below the NFL average. And Elway has had a great deal of time to throw the football today. And boy, you just don't want to give a quarterback that amount of time to sit back there and peruse his receivers, because it's very difficult to cover those folks when they're running downfield in the open.
3rd down and 6, 4 wide receivers. James bluffing the safety blitz, then the throw underneath to Mateo, breaks 1 tackle, and then fumbles the ball. We'll see if, no, the whistle had blown it dead. Claiborne was the man who made the tackle. A little extra activity after the fumble. Keith Cart, 72 Denver. Brent Williams, 96 New England. The combatants.
A little window dressing by the New England defense. They don't do a lot of blitzing. But you see Roland James coming up as if he's going to blitz and then dropping back into coverage. However, they still threw the ball across in front, completed it. Fans here angry that they didn't get a penalty. But 2 guys fighting for the football in what it seemed to be a fair battle over there.
Moran, who kicked the ball into the end zone for the first time all season long. Stanley Morgan, once in the 70s, returned a punt for a touchdown, 80 yards, but a somewhat unfamiliar role, and a beautiful kick by Moran that will bounce into the end zone. So after going 15 games without a touchback, Moran's 2 for 2 today. And on to Hawaii to the Pro Bowl as Denver's lone representative in that All-Star Classic. Timeout. Mile High Stadium, the scene. 11:39 left, 3rd quarter. Tony Eason and the Patriots need a win for a wild card. They trail Denver 14-10. Eason to Robert Perryman for 7 yards. Carl Mecklenburg the tackle.
Dick, we were here last year for the New England-Denver game, and that was really 2 games. You remember the first half, New England really stomped all over Denver, 17-3. Second half, Denver came back to win 21-20, and course, New England would like to turn the tables and say, well, Denver, you won the first half here today. Our turn to come back and win the second half.
Second down and 3. Stevens. Enough for the first down at the 31-yard line. And again, embracing that ball, clutched with both hands as he runs it off tackle. Boyer and Mecklenburg with a stop. Dennison there as well. Boy, coaches have to love to see that. If you can give you productivity, 1,000 yards, and then show little hope of ripping the ball away, that's got to be a delight. It must bring fright to even the great backs who carried it out there like a loaf and just flirting with disaster.
Ball security. See Raymond Berry looking at his notes there. He keeps track of the plays that have been effective and tries to go back and utilize them again later in the ball game.
Stevens to the 37-yard line behind the block of Robert Perryman. Perryman serving that role just as Winder blocks so well for Dorsett the first half. A reminder, we'll be selecting our Budweiser Most Valuable Player at the conclusion of today's game.
Not only plays that have been effective, but players. That player has been effective. Doesn't matter whether he's running left or right on the day. Steve Grogan still calls some of the plays, but Raymond Berry has been calling more of the plays this year. He got more involved as Flutie became the quarterback, felt that he had a little better feel for what Flutie needed to have to work with. And although Grogan still calls some of them, Berry is much more involved in the play calling this year.
Stevens on the loose. One man to beat. It's Wilson.
And from behind, Castillo makes the tackle at the 11-yard line. John Stevens, we told you his longest run of the year coming into this game was 21 yards, 22 yards. He gets a 23-yard touchdown and now rips off 52 yards.
Such a dangerous receiver. You see the little bounce out there, and then just utilizing his great speed, slowed down momentarily as he dodged behind to set up the block for Cedric Jones, which allowed the tackle from behind. It was Jones, by the way, who threw the big block on his touchdown run earlier.
Well, Denver's Achilles, defense against the run, reflected again. Perriman to the 10-yard line. Denver stubbornly allowing just a yard. Boyer down there along with Simon Fletcher, number 73 Fletcher. Folks here in Denver thought he had a shot at a Pro Bowl. Boy, Stevens showing why he earned that honor as a rookie. 132 yards rushing today. You know, he had only one 1,000-yard rushing season in college, and here he is a rookie in the NFL and has over 1,100.
Now, 5 times this year he's gone over the century mark. That is impressive. I said he's never been a rookie, really. He came in with great maturity, and he still is showing that here.
Denver may have been offside. Flags fly as Perriman gets to the 3-yard line. That'll be 2 yards shy of a first down. Walt Boyer may have leaned into that neutral zone.
Dick, one of the things that has troubled Denver's defense this year, for so many years they gave up a lot of yardage, but they had the ability to make the big play down when they got in, when you got inside of their 20 and down inside the 10. But unfortunately, they do not have a lot of those big play people around. Mecklenburg, who's that kind of guy, missed a lot of the season, and you don't have people like Steve Foley and Tom Jackson and Billy Thompson and Gradishar and Louis Wright. I mean, those are a list of names that they would love to have back on the field, or the equivalent thereof here today.
Defense, 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down. Second down.
Half the distance, or to 5 yards, is half the distance down to the 5-yard line. Total defense this year, Minnesota, the Vikings are #1 in yards allowed. New England is 5th best in the league. The average 322 in this wide-open game of the 80s. Denver is 22nd, and Philadelphia last in the league in generosity. Bill Collier. If he wants to stay in coaching, he'll find a job.
Oh, yes, yes.
Reggie Dupart gets only a couple of those 4 yards. Mecklenburg spearheading the charge. Boyer was there to assist along with Michael Brooks.
The big play people. When you need the big plays, you see them rise to the occasion. We mentioned Mecklenburg's name very often, but
you can build around him.
I'll tell you, really can. And his absence from the lineup, Dan Reeves said last year that Carl Mecklenburg is as important to our defense as John Elway is to our offense. And you strip him out of the lineup for all of those games and then put him back in with that cast on his hands, you've really done something to a defensive team.
3rd and 2. Direct snap to Tupu. And on his own, did the whistle sound it? Yes. Yes. And boy, was that remindful of a play a couple of years ago that really brought pain to New England when Tupu fumbled and Dennis Smith picked it up as New England was driving for a possible win.
Collier, who is watching this play with great concern, watching as he sees that ball break loose, and then the officials saying, no, the ball was blown dead. Same play we saw earlier, only this time to Tupu moving laterally. Look how he drives that pile forward. And there you're seeing that one of the weaknesses of this front seven. They really don't have physical players who can move the pile backwards. Now that's something sad to say about a front seven defensively.
Barry with a tough call. It's 4th and inches. We'll see his decision when we return. Has elected to forsake the field goal. Might have changed his mind had they made that field goal at the end of the first half. Would have made it 14-13. He wants to touch down. The ball's on the 2-yard line. 4th and inches. Eason wants the ball to be wiped as you hear this crowd at Mile High Stadium. Oh, boy, these are great fans. They're doing everything they can to help the Broncos.
Keith Bishop, but that offense is involved, and you want to talk about emotional challenge here. This is a throw it in your face kind of play.
Harriman and Stevens are the running backs. Eason, incomplete. It's amazing. Stevens gets him up and down the field, but inside the 20, the tempo change doesn't give it to Perriman, and Larry Bird can't. That's a running 20-foot hook shot right on the money.
I hate to second-guess calls, but you've got an offensive line and the worst rushing defense in football, and you throw the football in an inches situation. That's one I don't like.
Dorsett gets 3 yards. And Stevens, or Winder rather, and another push and shove. But Stevens carrying the ball off guard, off tackle, successful, and then once inside the 20, they didn't call any of those plays, and even on short yardage.
One of the reasons that this New England offense has been so successful running the ball, they've really challenged their offensive line. In fact, the offensive line went to Raymond Berry and said, we want to run the football. We want you to put some pressure on us and make us, give us an opportunity to show you we can do that. They have done it consistently through the year, and yet, as you say, you get down there that close and you try and finesse somebody. Well, finesse sometimes gets to be a dirty word.
Meanwhile, that goal line stand by Denver may be the answer to part of the playoff puzzle. 2nd and 7, Elway from the end zone. Vance Johnson. First down at the 26-yard line before Claiborne can wrestle him down. And emotionally, what Denver's defense did for the Broncos, this crowd, and the emotions of New England might be telling. Irving Fryer in the role of consultant today.
Fryer missed not only for his pass-catching ability, but he's one of the best blocking wide receivers in football and a tremendous threat as a punt returner. Elway again with lots of time, and another drop by the
tight end. So Mobley's dropped 2, and Kay has dropped 2.
Mobley and Kay are just having a horrible day. And Elway is looking out there and said, what in the world is wrong with my tight ends? Fourth receiver, so important. You've got 3 wide men that demand coverage, and so you have an opportunity to go to a tight end or go to a running back. And then they drop the football.
5 minutes and 12 seconds remaining, third quarter. Denver 14, New England 10. That was the score at halftime. Mobley this time, he does catch the ball and breaks a tackle to the 35.
Well, we got a holding call over there on Dave Studdard, who literally threw Andre Tippett to the ground.
Look at Tippett. He's furious. He takes his helmet off.
I don't blame him for being angry. That's a takedown. Watch number 70. That's Dave Studdard. Tippett is going to go by him. Studdard just grabs his shoulder and then just takes him down to the ground. And Tippett, keep an eye on Tippett. He stripped off his helmet and came storming back to the line.
Offense, number 70, 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down. Second down.
Well, the great players, Lawrence Taylor, I'm sure, would concur with Tippett that they're held on every play, and that sometimes because you are an outstanding player, it carries a disadvantage. They overlook some things.
Like when Keith Bishop, for example, was having to sit out some with that Bennett's fracture of his thumb and a big cast on his hand. And I said, what's most difficult about playing with that cast? He said, I can't hold. And it's become a reality for the offensive linemen. They just do it well enough not to get caught on many occasions.
That's not just Denver. It's every team in the league. Elway scrambles. And he was down. The ball is dead as soon as he slides. So, again, it's the same as if you're tackled. The ground can't cause a fumble, so there's no fumble.
I'm sure that one of the things that Reeves has told Elway is to slide every time you run that football. Now, there's someone who's a little upset. That's Bruce Armstrong. Talk about the conversations about wanting to run the ball more. He's the man that went to Barry. And there's the slide. Watch Billy Bryan, number 64, the center up there to protect his quarterback. A very personal relationship between John Elway and that offensive line.
I was going to say with the center, I guess you can't avoid that. Quarterbacks and center.
Billy has had a tough year. He's physically a very tough year.
Elway gets away from Tippett, but he can't hit Jackson.
Talking about Billy Bryan, you talk to Billy, and if you talk to him from behind, he has to turn his shoulders because he can't rotate that neck. Watch Tippett heading for the sideline, and here is Tippett on that left play. We've seen him from the right side as well as the left, bursting by the blocking of Ken Lanier. Kenny got him on the second time around, but he got great pressure on Elway.
That's a picture of intensity. Tippett driving at the quarterback.
Well, he just explodes off that line.
10 men on the line of scrimmage for New England, and Morgan back at his 32. Oh, very nearly blocked by Jim Bowman. And a bounce for Horan.
Well, that's Stanley Morgan's inexperience. Irving Fryer would have come up on the fly to take that one. Stanley called a fair catch as he'd been instructed to. But Raymond, I'm sure, has also told him, don't take a chance. And Stanley backpedaled on that one, and it took a Denver bounce.
51 yards on the punt, and they could almost taste the block. Come to blocking this punt. So New England wasting a scoring opportunity their last possession when they had the ball at the 2-yard line. And now have to start over again from inside their 30, and Michael Brooks with a solid hit. And he's one of those players that does have the size that might be able to move the pile. I want to go back and underline what you said, that part of the problem with the Bronco defense, they played cerebrally and with stunts and clever schemes. But you say of their front 7 men, no one there strong enough to move the pile.
They really don't have the kind of dominant physical player to step in there and push people back. And I think partially by choice, because Collier's system is one of constant movement.
Eason dumps it off. And Mr. Everything, John Stevens, is taken out of bounds by Simon Fletcher. He wanted to go to Stevens right off the bat, but it wasn't there, so he pumped once and waited for Stevens to clear the corner.
One of the things that has not been talked about at the end of last season, after the Washington Redskins blew Denver's defense out so badly, scoring at one point on 5 consecutive drives, Dan Reeves said, I'm going to get involved with the defense. I'm going to go over and get some of my philosophy into the defense. Well, the changing coaches kept him from doing that during the 88 season.
Third down. Eason will run for it. He's not going to get it. Jim Ryan got Eason. And the Patriots are going to have to punt. And now it starts to get more and more serious for New England. They trail 14-10. Already fans have to be thinking about 2 field goals that weren't made. One kicked and missed, and one that they didn't go for when they were stuffed at the 2-yard line. And now Eason is nailed, and into punt comes Fiegels. 2 minutes, 7 seconds left in the third quarter.
Not a good kick.
Teal can return this one from the 34. Running start all the way to the 48-yard line. And now, after starting on the 2-yard line, what seemed just minutes ago, now it's Elway starting from midfield. Lopes, Denver's last game, and it may be New England's last game. When you were a rookie, do you remember your last game?
I remember it well. In fact, we were out of the season, I think, three games in, and the last game of the season, the Wyatts had packed the U-Hauls, and they were lined up in the tunnel, and the guys are coming off the field throwing their pads, and nobody got in the shower, and in 5 minutes, they were all on the freeway with the engines racing.
Yeah, certainly the Broncos are not in that mood today, the way they've played. Here's Dorsett having a big game and getting more. Out of bounds at the 36-yard line. Keith Cart's throwing a good block. And Dorsett having one of the best games since early in the year.
Well, he had 2 100-yard games early. It kind of disappeared from the offense. And we mentioned early in this ball game, obviously given an opportunity to be showcased here a bit in this ball game, and has responded with some very fine runs.
Well, he's 60 yards away from costing Denver a couple of places in the draft list.
Conditional draft. They give away a 3 instead of a 5 for him.
Winder breaks a tackle, and he's down close to the 30-yard line. Roland James finally secures the stop.
Dan Reeves was asked about changes for this Bronco team, and obviously they have to make them. They have to bite the bullet. They've got a lot of players getting old. Reeves said the only one that won't be critically reviewed is the owner, Patrick Bowen. But Chuck Knox used to talk about a run-for-the-bus game. The last game of the season didn't mean anything. He said the players that are running for the bus and not worried about the game, I don't want those guys on my team. These Broncos have not run for the bus today.
And in fact, looking for more to add to their 14-10 lead. Oh, Winder runs into a tough tackler, Elway. Elway spins, and a mistake on the play as Winder going one way and Elway the other, and they ran into each other.
Most unusual. Let's see if we can tell who's at fault. Elway there, and Winder lucky that did not result in a fumble, as Winder able to clamp down on that football. Frequently that kind of collision will put the football on the ground. As it is, it brings up a 3rd and 8 yards to go.
From the 34, final seconds, third quarter. 4 wide receivers. Almost intercepted. Well read by Roland James, and only because the pass was low was James denied, and he had a running start going the other way. 24 seconds left in the third quarter, and let's see how it's going to be a punt and not a field goal try. So James' defense denies the Broncos a possible field goal that would give them a 7-point lead. Owain's third punt, the first 2 went into the end zone. There's this one. No, he actually caught the corner at the 5-yard line. Horan with a tough kick. So how field position has changed from the 2 with New England on the Denver 2, and now it's New England on their own 5.
Field position, the name of the game. The further you can start your opponent away from your own goal line, the more opportunities you give him to self-destruct, and the more chances you have to make something happen. Right now, it's a long green. I'll tell you, that's one of those long shots on the pool table where you're backed up against the opposite railing.
Patriots scored first, 7-0. Then Denver, a couple of touchdowns, 14-7. New England with a field goal, had another after a fumble late in the first half. Missed that one. And then we're stopped on 4th and inches at the 2 here in the 3rd quarter. And Bob Perriman gets a short yardage, and that probably will run out the 3rd period. Andre Townsend, the tackler. So the end of 3 quarters at Mile High Stadium. New England, a win gets them the wild card, but they trail by 4. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. 15-minute season. Through 3 quarters, only 6 total yards separate the 2 teams. More importantly, 4 points. The separation, Denver leading 14-10. Second down and 8 from the 7-yard line for the Patriots. Their 7. They were stopped on Denver's 2. A possible go-ahead touchdown in the 3rd. Eason down at the 4-yard line. Walt Boyer. Flag is down in the Denver secondary.
One of the things you do get out of the smaller, more active, more agile player is good pursuit. You see it here with Boyer from his defensive end position, able to catch up with Eason, who is quicker than he looks.
There is no flag. Quarterback was out of the pocket.
Of course, as soon as that quarterback starts to run, changes the rules downfield.
So you can chuck a man if you looks as if it's a running play developing.
One of the weaknesses of this New England offense is their inability to break down the field in a hurry. They need to drive, and that's Eason. That's Eason limping quite badly in the end zone. Looked like he may have racked that knee a little bit when he went down, but Eason is not a deep thrower. He's a controlled pass thrower, and they need the long drive. They need to drive it a piece at a time to get the points on the board. It's not a good situation for them here.
From the end zone, Eason hands off to Dupart. And he's out of bounds at the 10-yard line, shy of the first down. Dennis Smith, another tackle. He's been as good as his Pro Bowl years in Denver, the way he's played today.
And Eason is injured. Barry said if Eason were injured, I would have to start using both of my quarterbacks. I don't feel that I can use either one of them separately. I would use Grogan on 3rd downs, and I would use both Grogan and Flutie in combination on 1st and 2nd down. Let's see how badly injured that knee is. We may indeed see him have to do that here late in the ball game.
Jeff Eagles to punt from his own end zone. Natil, a dangerous return man at the other end. Best kick of the day for Eagles. It'll force Natil to his 43. A reverse to Bell that did not fool Ernest Gibson and 4 other Patriots. Darrell Holmes was there first. Gibson made the hit. 14 minutes left. 14-10 Broncos. In the Patriot bullpen, number 14 Steve Grogan and number 2 Doug Flutie.
Pair of right-handers in the bullpen.
As they attend to Tony Eason, here's how Eason was injured. The tackle by Walt Boyer. Good clean hit, but it catches him around that right knee, and
see him reaching for that knee instantly as he goes to the ground.
Well, the Broncos leading 14-10 have the ball at their own 47. Elway to Jackson. Boy, was that dangerous collision course Jackson and Ronnie Lepet were running. They avoided each other, and the ball avoided Jackson.
Time for this New England defense to rise to the challenge. Last week, Tampa Bay was in New England territory 8 times. They came away with 7 points. They started 3 fourth-quarter drives inside Patriot territory. Right now, this Patriot defense needs to get a turnover, needs to get some field position for their offense.
Elway again protected well, but overshoots Steve Sewell down at the 42 of the Patriots. It'll bring up 3rd and 10.
Patriots made some changes in their defense this year. Rod Rust, the longtime coordinator of their defense, went to Kansas City, and they didn't want to pick a coordinator. They had 3 qualified people, Don Shinnick and Eddie Kayat and Jimmy Carr. They've kind of let the 3 of them run this defense almost by committee. And Carr, who sits up in the booth, makes the calls for the defense, but he does it in a way that they've all talked about what they want, and the system is working. They've had a good year defensively, although right now, as I said, they need the big play.
Here comes Rembert, and he forces the quick throw by Elway, incomplete. Well, Johnny Rembert from the outside applying pressure. Ricky Nattiel was the closest Bronco, so 3 incomplete passes, and the Broncos will have to punt.
I can remember just moments ago how close New England came to blocking a Haran kick. And you have to wonder if maybe they won't try again. Dante Scarnecchia, their special teams
wife watching, Lori Flutie from New England, and things have to be a little nervous in that part of the country. Whoops. Patriots offside. And 5 yards won't give them Denver a first down. It'll bring up 4th and 5.
Certainly will give them an opportunity to pick up extra yardage on the kick, too. And you're already almost guaranteed.
Encouragement, defense, number 23, 5-yard penalty, repeat the down, 4th down.
McSwain, who blocked the punt, first game of his career, as I recall. As Bishop, the man said, how in the world he can even get the ball back there with.
Well, that's a cast much like Mecklenburg's. He said he snaps with the right hand, controls with the left, but we've seen some bad snaps during the year. He's a great snapper when he's two-handed. That's a good snap.
And Moran gets off a high kick, 3rd catch. Morgan lets it bounce, and it goes right to Bell, who downs it at the 5-yard line. So for the 2nd consecutive time, New England starts at its 5, and they'll start apparently with a new quarterback. Played a fail-safe passing game, short passes, 94 yards, but injured knee on the sidelines. And Steve Grogan, not Flutie, Grogan the veteran, 35-year-old Grogan out of Kansas State in his 14th year. He's led the Patriots to some great rallies. But Merlin is stacked up by Brooks, and a fumble on the play after the whistle.
Dick, I think if this drive had started out toward midfield out beyond the 30, you might have seen Flutie in the ball game. Down backed up, they want the experience of Grogan, and the other thing they want is his long ball ability. You see that ball bouncing away, the official pointing to the ground, indicating the whistle had blown before it bounced loose. But Grogan, unlike Eason, loves to throw the long ball. He likes to turn it loose downfield. And New England in need of big yardage at this time in the ball game.
Katupu is the running back behind Grogan. And he hits Cedric Jones for what appears to be a first down out at the 17-yard line. Steve Wilson on the coverage, make it the 18.
Eason testing that knee on the sideline, but he is iced up, and
that's usually a very bad sign.
Very frustrated by the injury. He said, look, I just barely got back from all of these problems with my thumb and my shoulder. Now a knee. Why me?
Will not return, but we heard that about Tim Goad, and he did. But it appears to be in the hands of the team of Grogan and Flutie now, and Grogan going deep for Jones, and too long. Good pressure by Broncos, Greg Cragen.
Pressure coming from a stud as Cragen, coming all the way from his nose tackle position, looped around. Grogan realizes there's no time left. Simon Fletcher, number 73, also there. Here's the stunt right here as they come around to the outside to go inside. Hell, no time to show you that. Yeah, there it is, quickly. Now we're back to live action.
That's the way to get the job done. Just heat up the machine.
There you go.
Incomplete behind Perriman, right into the heels of Jim Ryan. 3rd and 10.
Frequently, when a second quarterback comes on the field, you see a letdown by the defense. So far, you haven't seen that from this Bronco defense. And looking at Grogan's numbers, all-time Patriot passers, Babe Pirelli and a Jim Plunkett. Plunkett's numbers, of course, would be abetted by someone he picked up out in Los Angeles with the Raiders.
Grogan and his day also had some good numbers running the ball. He was the top rushing quarterback 4 years.
Yeah. He did what Elway did early in his career.
Over the middle to Jones, and he can't hang on. Tyrone Braxton and Mike Harden were there. Braxton in front of Jones might have shielded him from the ball. Meanwhile, Jones, Rulon Jones, and Carl Mecklenburg were applying pressure.
You can't throw a pass better than that. We talked about the long arm that Grogan still possesses. Watch how perfectly thrown that pass is. That's a catchable ball.
Interesting that neither team, Merlin, has converted on 3rd down the entire second half.
Big numbers in the first half on the conversions.
The Eagles' kick is a perfect spiral. Natil at the 32. And down at the 42. Darrell Holmes made the tackle. A 52-yard punt by Eagles, and a flag is down. New England throughout the day has had ineligible men downfield on the punt. Let's see this. Yep.
Well, and we saw Reeves say no the last time. He didn't want them to punt again. 42-yard net on that punt. Maybe he just doesn't want to risk his people on punt return, which is a place where you do normally get people
on the defense,
hurt.
number 73, downfield early. Penalty is declined. 1st and 10, Denver.
Win or lose, a heavy day emotionally for Dan Reeves. He's going to have to say goodbye to some very close friends. Goes with one of the truly fine home records in football in the 80s. They've only lost twice this year. Their opener, 21-14 to Seattle, and then that disaster in overtime to the Raiders, 30-27, when Denver led 24-0 at the half. And Tony Dorsett gallops to the 43, and a flag down. Could be a face mask on the end of the play. 15 more yards for Dorsett.
Face mask. Defense, number 31. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Brett Merriam, reliable free safety, in position to make the tackle and reaches out. Well, no question about it, took a hold of that mask. And Dorsett, who doesn't always say what he means, we talked about his future. He said, I don't care about a future here. It really doesn't matter to me. Is playing today like it really matters to him.
Long-range future. The way he's playing, 88 yards for Dorsett. He gets the call again, and nothing there this time. Just to repeat that situation on the draft, Joel, here's a still active that gives you a reflection how New England is drafted and the players that made their team versus the Denver draft, where they have only Perry, Kelly a tight end, and Guidry a reserve cornerback.
And only Gerald Perry has had a chance to start and have an impact. The other two really marginal players. New England, on the other hand, with 3 starters out of this group. John Stephen and Tim Goad, and also the linebacker Vincent Brown has started. Impact players, and those others that you saw listed there. An outstanding list of young players who will eventually, I think, help this New England team.
Denver has called a timeout. in a surprising spot in this game. They've called time. In fact, Dan Reeves himself looked surprised on the sidelines.
We've seen that several times this year. In fact, it was a question of timeout or no timeout that lost Denver 3 points in that crucial game just before the half against the Los Angeles Raiders. And later in the season, we saw Reeves absolutely red-faced and furious. That was down in New Orleans, wasn't it, when he was so mad about
the Raider game?
And the Raider game in L.A. That's right, in L.A.
Well, tomorrow there'll be some mixed emotions, the highs and lows of this season down to the final Sunday. Houston at Cleveland. And that's a winner-take-all for a wild card berth. Buffalo, Indianapolis. The Colts are still alive, and they're getting help thus far from Denver. Miami at Pittsburgh. And then the second half of our doubleheader, Seattle and the Raiders. The winner wins the AFC West. It could be Seattle 9-7. It could be the Raiders 8-8. Good enough to win it.
Wouldn't that be something? I don't know if that's a good something.
On 2nd and 12, Elway off play action. Vance Johnson out of bounds at the 31-yard line. They don't stop the clock on that. They say play dead inbounds. 3rd down and 3.
Little play fake to hold things inside, and then Elway was working on Lepet. Right side, here's Lepet, one-on-one, and it's turned all the way around by Vance Johnson. Lepet, who has excellent form, excellent technique. I think one of the finest cornerbacks in football at this point in his career.
That was a quick whistle. So the play is dead inbounds. Clock runs. 14-10, Denver leads. Flying catch by Mark Jackson. First down at the 22. Jackson's 5th catch. Ernest Gibson on the coverage.
Not close enough to cover, but look at this leaping catch. A circus catch that Jackson has made routine over the past 3 weeks.
Andre Tippett.
Oh, boy. You wonder why he's angry at the end of a ball game? Jim Juriga hanging onto that face mask. That's frustration there. No flag.
Well, Jackson now has 25 catches in the last 4 games. Winder right through the hole. He's still going to the 4-yard line. 1st and goal, Denver.
It's not an easy task to sustain emotion in a game that means absolutely nothing in terms of playoffs. But you mentioned some key words: pride, job security. The last opportunity these coaches are going to have to judge their talent comes today, and a lot of talent has shown a good mark today.
1st and goal with 9:22 to go, and Winder has the touchdown.
Denver Broncos had the players vote on most valuable players. The most valuable players on offense, John Elway. You could expect that. And Sammy Winder. Well, that's the kind of play that they were applauding here in Denver when they voted him co-MVP offense for the year 1988.
Carlos try for point with Kubiak holding. And contact made by Garen Veras. Bishop, because of those heavy wraps in his hands and gripping the ball, has just enough movement that it's attracting the defense of New England. Well, this is the same
start on number 64 offense. 5-yard penalty. 1 try.
Bill Bryan.
Well, I'm not sure Billy's even in there. He may be 54. I think he's looking at that center and saying 64. Following the false start on the center. And you're not allowed to simulate the snap. If you do that, you draw the penalty. It's the same thing as an offensive lineman raising up or lifting up.
Ooh, another bad snap. And Carlos gets it through. But credit Kubiak again with a terrific catch. So the mathematics now for New England. 9 minutes and 18 seconds left and 10 points to tie. They have a couple of possessions, you would think, in that amount of time, but they must be opportunistic and productive now. And the irony, Winder so easily on 1st and goal. Well, not that easily, but in one play they got a touchdown, where New England in the same half of the field, same situation, could not score in the 3rd quarter, and that may be the most important series in the New England season. And Raymond Berry, typically, whether high or low, he just hides behind that stone face.
It's consistency.
I've never seen a year where so many teams out of it have played so hard and so well. There have been years where just, you look for the big score, 38-10, sure, that team was out of it. It's been just the reverse this season. Hollis scuffs it a bit. This guy's dangerous, but not when he's hit that early by Ken Bell. Martin denied the 20-yard line.
Who do you think the most valuable player was on special teams elected by the players?
Ken Bell on cue.
Yes, absolutely on cue. Big special teams play.
Well, here's the man that's going to be called upon to rally his team. And if there's any one player, at least in the clubhouse or with respect on the playing field on this New England roster, it is the veteran Steve Grogan. I mean, he is a highly competitive guy. He's a firebrand type. And this is a time where he'll call upon all his veteran resources. Townsend missed an easy tackle, and Grogan turns it into a 1st down. Cedric Jones out of bounds at the 34-yard line. 14 yards to match the number on the quarterback's back. Barry looking through, squinting through. He doesn't have great vision, saying, how did he get that done?
I'll tell you, this is one of those marvelous escapes. Grogan just ducking underneath right there. You'll wake up. Greg Townsend will feel that tackle, and he'll relive that opportunity to make a sack about a dozen times in his sleep tonight.
Morgan left. Jones right. Good protection. And it goes to Dupart, the running back. He stops the clock out of bounds at the 39. Brooks the closest Bronco.
This is a time when the New England Patriots sorely miss Irving Fryer, a big play receiver. In fact, it was Fryer who really ignited those last drives in New England when Eason was able to reach him with the football on several key situations. And Eason now on crutches on the sideline, taking the pressure off of that leg, and the pressure squarely on his fellow quarterback, Steve Grogan.
2nd down and 5. Less than 9 minutes to go. Grogan guns a ball, and it's a catch at the 43. Sammy Martin. That was a fine reception, as Martin, who had only 2 catches all year, comes up with 18 yards and a 1st down in Bronco territory at the 43. Hand off to Perriman, and the Broncos were waiting for it. Randy Robbins, 48. Roland Jones, 75. And the clock, that electronic monster when you're behind, continues to eat up every precious second. Mosi Tutupu getting an extra yard with those powerful legs, but it's not enough for a 1st down. 8 yards, so it'll be 3rd and 2. Ryan and Smith, the tacklers.
John Stevens, who had been so effective in the early going, has been noticeably absent until now.
Here he comes back into the lineup.
Onto the field.
Stevens, who had a 23-yard touchdown run and a 52-yard run that seemingly set up New England for the lead. Now Stevens runs right into number 71, Greg Cragen. Now again, Denver had a stun on. Cragen looking to the outside.
They looped that nose tackle, and they looped him to the left side. New England, having run so often to the right side early, comes back to the left. Joe Collier must have known something. He had his defenders coming to the left, and there they were, waiting for Stevens.
2-yard loss, so it's 4th and 4.
And they're going for it.
They're all big plays now. Grogan and Dupard makes a top catch with Robbins all over him, and it's a 12-yard gain and a first down. And the clock down by 10 points, and the cheering section back home. Grogan going for 6. Touchdown, no, intercepted. It's intercepted by Tyrone Braxton. Took it right out of the hands of Cedric Jones.
And in their own special way, this defense is saying to Joe Collier, hey, Joe, we want you to go out with one you can be proud of. I'm sure he's proud of that play. That's the kind of takeaway, the kind of defensive finish to a drive that he has seen so often and engineered so often for these Broncos.
And Grogan might have tried to get it done too quickly. His pass was a little underthrown, and Braxton perfectly in front of Jones to make the interception. Flags go down as Milford Hodge hits Winder in the backfield. Well, we started today, Merlin, by talking about the Denver defense not being good enough. The defense that gave away Christmas. Well, maybe New England's offense, next to last in the league, wasn't good enough either.
Well, I don't think this game today necessarily reflects the
Illegal
strength
motion. Offense. Number
reflects the
89.
level of
Penalty
performance
is declined. 2nd down.
of these two teams. I think what we have to look at is what has happened emotionally today. And there's been a lot of up and down emotionally. But the one thing that has been expressed again and again on the field by these players is that they were not going to allow this to be a bad day for Denver. Thoroughly embarrassed last week as this defense was stomped. I mean, Seattle took the ball 6 times and went straight down to score. They did not want that to happen here today, and it hasn't.
Jerry Kubiak is now the quarterback for Elway. And they stay on the ground predictably, and New England waiting for it. Tippett wraps up Winder. And the clock is at 5:47. As we did initially, the Patriot wives thought it was a touchdown, only to find that Braxton was the football version of the Scrooge there. Well, what a... Yeah, you can appreciate it more than anyone, Merlin, the emotions and the feelings and the people, so many people intimately who care. I mean, fans care, but they can shuck it off after a couple of days. I mean, this is your livelihood.
You live with it for that whole off season, and walking away with a loss today would have left such bitter memories for this Bronco team. Kubiak down by Brent Williams.
And almost took the ball away from Kubiak in the process.
If you're wondering why Kubiak is on the field, I'm sure that Dan Reeves not about to take any chances with John Elway's help.
That's what Dan said earlier. No one would doubt that he's never been a loser. And
Now, the bottom part of there is the message. We've got to surround ourselves with people who feel the same way. And this was a gut check for a lot of folks today. And the message was loud and clear. We want you to register how you're going to vote, which side you're going to be on.
Stanley Morgan is back at the New England 45. Horan punting from his end zone. Short kick. And it takes a Denver bounce out of bounds right on the 50-yard line. 4:39 left. The Patriots have spent one of their timeouts. Remember, they used it when it was 4th and inches down on the 2-yard line. And will this be the play that you remember from this New England season?
I'm sure it's the one that Raymond Berry will remember. An opportunity to use that big offensive line, and John Stephen Perriman to go up inside. Instead, he elected to try and finesse that Denver defense, and it backfired.
Tough to finesse, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, you don't finesse a finesser, and that's exactly what happened in this situation.
But Grogan and the Patriots still are in it, but they need to score on this possession, you would think. And to Tupu, and you don't even have to see the number when a man starts moving tacklers with him the way Mosi does. Braxton was in on the stop. No huddle. On 2nd and 4. Dupart, but he doesn't get out of bounds. It's a first down, but the clock runs. And now New England is battling 2 opponents. The Bronco defense, much maligned. And that clock that now spells 4 minutes and under. Down the middle, Cedric Jones, the intended receiver.
That'll kill the clock. Mecklenburg applying the pressure. And one of the realities of this situation, we've been informed that Collier and his defensive staff will not survive this disastrous season, and by Denver standards it was a disastrous season. And along with Collier, because of a change in system, a lot of these players whose play allows them, by virtue of their intelligence, by virtue of their knowledge of the system, to survive, they will not survive under a new system. People like a Jim Ryan, for example, perhaps a Dennison. Many of the smaller offensive players will probably not survive the changeover.
Incomplete. Dupart, ball thrown a little behind him. It's 3rd and 10. And for Raymond Berry, what a season for him. They start out by beating the Jets, and then they lose Minnesota, Buffalo, and Houston badly. Then they beat Indiana and lose 45-3 to Green Bay. So they're 2-4. And that's when he changed and went to the running game. The defense held things together, and they close out the year 7-2, and their 2 losses, as we said, by just field goals. But today
was another story, and an opportunity with so much to gain. They have not been able to convert.
3rd and 10. Screen to Dupart. He's got a couple of blockers. And he uses the sidelines, out of bounds at the 26. That's going to be right at the yardstick.
He's short by about a half a yard, I believe, Dick.
Stops the clock. That was as important as the first down. We'll see whether it's 4th and 1.
The chains all the way on the other side of the field, so they may have to bring them across and measure, but I believe he's about a half a yard short.
They are going to measure. Well, New England has been notoriously bad on the road on grass fields, and this year hadn't scored a touchdown, just field goals, and losing at Green Bay 45-3, but beat Miami 6-3.
They're a little better on grass than Denver has been on artificial turf, but they're not as comfortable on an opposing surface as they are on their own. And of course, Denver is a natural turf team, New England an artificial turf team.
It's a first down. That nose just tickling the yardstick.
So much for these eyes of mine. Maybe it's time to go to the cheaters. Dick, we've seen the Patriot wives a bit today. The Bronco wives have been busy as well. They continued their food drive today. Earlier in the year, they brought in 43 tons of food and $23,000 in donations, and they added to that $3,500 from the players, distributed that to shelters and missions and food banks, and a very worthy opportunity for them to help the community and the homeless and those who are in need.
Truly the spirit of this holiday season. On first down, Grogan has a fly swatted down by Greg Cragen. Cragen, who has led this team in tackles this year at nose guard, and certainly a overachiever, has played another big game today.
He's earned the right, I believe. You see him right in the center of your picture, number 71. When they ask, would you stand up and be counted on this day when some folks were running for the buses, he's given you an answer.
Played at Utah State, your alma mater.
I remember him well. Rulon Jones, too. tackle you for a long time.
Grogan down the middle, but over the head of the intended target. Jones again. That's the same play, apparently. It appeared to be that Grogan tried, that was intercepted by Braxton.
You really have the feeling that this Bronco defense is saying, hey, Joe, this one's for you. For the 20 years here with the Broncos, surviving 4 different head coaches, 3 Super Bowls. They would like to have won one of those.
He goes back to the first day of the AFL season when he was a Boston Patriot.
The Boston Patriot decided he actually coached, was the head coach in the for the Buffalo Bills for a short time.
Grogan with 3:28 left looks at 3rd and 10. And he's going deep. Ooh, almost on the deflection to Dennis Gadbois, who was just activated.
And out of the hands of Steve Wilson. Wilson, we mentioned, in there because of injuries to Mark Haynes. And of course, they're challenging on that side. That ball in and out of the hands of number 45 Wilson. And look how close it comes to being caught by Gadbois. And then dropping to the ground.
4th and 10, and Grogan has to get at least 10, or it would appear the Broncos, with a 10-point lead, would be able to run it out. Martin and Jones, the speed is to the right. He goes back to the middle, and Morgan, the veteran, has a first down at the 10 as he snares a bullet in a 16-yard gain between Dennis Smith and Mike Harden.
For so many years, it was that combination that clicked in New England. Grogan to Morgan.
On first down, he throws it away. Boy, you look back on this game, and the field goal missed at the end of the half, and then that 4th and inches down at the 2-yard line were even a field goal then. If you figure that Grogan can move them in, and of course the wides are. That was a reaction to the 4th down completion by Grogan. And you don't think that the folks, Indianapolis Colts wives, are cheering the other way today, do you?
They're not watching with any interest.
They need Denver to win for their hopes of a playoff spot to be alive, but that won't be the only victory they need. 2nd and 10 from the 10. Incomplete, and Dennis Smith, who was a 7-foot high jumper, he really had Jones blanketed.
And all over the top of Grogan. What number do you think that guy wore? 77. Carl Mecklenburg.
That one didn't have much of a chance. But Grogan has to look for something out of the ordinary.
Well, the MVPs, as you might guess, have made their presence felt today, although Mecklenburg was not picked as the MVP on defense because of his absence. That's logical, missing as many games as he did. Simon Fletcher was chosen there by the Broncos.
Russ Francis late coming on the field, the tight end. Look out. It was Townsend who got there first, and Roland Jones with a payoff. And now 4th down, and the ball is at the 23-yard line. The clock stopped for a moment with a sack of the quarterback, but now running. And this then is the season.
Talk about wives and how much they have at stake and how much the players have at stake. New owners of the Patriots, Victor Kiam and Fran Murray, also, I'm sure, twisting emotionally as they were hoping for an opportunity to see this one go their way so they could be in the playoffs.
Into the end zone, and incomplete. Denver takes over on downs.
Dennis Smith over there. Steve Wilson over there. That ball almost over the top. You know, those those faces tell you the story.
And on downs, Denver will start from the 24. We mentioned at the start of the game, as you look at the obvious disappointment of the Patriots, who came here with a one-game mission. A victory meant playoffs. About these Denver fans. And many have felt that they're as good as any in the league. And we talked about the no-shows today. And it was an extraordinary number for Denver. 5,287 didn't come today. Over 70,000, with the season basically over, did. Not many NFL cities could boast of such an attendance or support of their team.
There's an incredible fan base here, and I don't think it's equal or better to anywhere in the league. But I think the other thing that's happened in this town, I think there are a lot of fans who've been spoiled by Denver's success. And I think they have not maintained that unconditional loyalty to the fans. They've been tough on the Broncos this year in a season when the Broncos have not been at the top of the stack.
Steve Sewell on the carry, the 2-minute timeout. And apparently Denver is going to spoil all the Patriot hopes. What might have been. Tony Eason injured in the second half. Steve Grogan unable to make the big play in his reserve, and Doug Flutie didn't play.
Well, and I said earlier, I really felt that that was dictated by field position. They started that first drive so deep in their own territory. They needed big yardage. Flutie primarily is effective running the football. He wants to hand off the running game and then roll out and throw the short passes, the control passes. But as much as anything, I think that Barry was betting on the experience of Grogan and the ability to read those long-distance defenses, those zone coverages, that nickel package that he was facing. And in fact, he had said to me, if it's a passing situation, I really have to go with Grogan's experience. And I think that's dictated the substitutions here in this fourth quarter.
If I had a microphone and could put it to Ray Barry now, I'd ask him why was Stevens running so well most of the game. When they got inside the 20, he didn't use them. They seemed to change the game.
Particularly good on that critical 4th and inches situation. I mean, you don't take the ball out of your best runner's hands and risk it at that point. Of course, let's take it from the other angle. If they throw that pass for a touchdown, then we applaud him for his courageousness.
That's right. Oh, hindsight, the old 20/20 vision. But Stevens was forgotten when they got down into scoring range, and he got them. He did score from 23 yards out for the only New England touchdown. Eason, the starter before injury, got 94 yards passing. It was Stevens really the offense, as it has been most of the successful games this year. Morgan, 5 catches for 60, 5 of 14 third down conversions, and only 1 in the second half. Denver defense was, well, it's been a schizophrenic defense. Sometimes they played well, and this, to the ill fortune of New England, was a day when the Broncos, playing perhaps with ultra emotion for that man, Joe Collier, gave it the aggression and the effort that the owner and the head coach and Collier himself has been begging for and hasn't always received this year.
Well, and it's been a lack of emotion frequently that has given them those sad days when they have been blown out, and there have been more blowouts defensively, of course, which has forced the changes here, the defensive philosophy and the defensive situation in Denver.
Kubiak, the quarterback. Sewell on a reverse. And Fred Marion just does bump him out of bounds at the 44-yard line. Well, knowing that New England would stack it up, just looking for the run into the line, Dan Reeves calls a reverse.
We talked about Reeves taking John Elway out of the game, not risking his quarterback, who's going to be operated on for a bursa and elbow problem on Monday. But Reeves also has to be proud of Elway's response to this season. And they asked Elway what he was going to do after the season. He said, I'm going to take a hard look at myself and see how I can improve my game. And that's the kind of response that coaches appreciate, and I'm sure, and it's an honest one from Elway. He's as tough a competitor as Reeves is.
Kubiak will just take the kneel, and here comes the almost predictable melee. Johnny Rembert over there, 52, still engaged with Clarence Kay. Mike Ruther is in the thick of things with Milford Hodge. And you don't want to mess with that man. Tippett, a second-degree black belt karate expert.
You notice how there was just a kind of a nice space around him. The people are looking for his number, saying, okay, I'll go over there. You got to know, they know Tippett. He's got to be frustrated, as are all of these New England Patriots. Let's watch this play as it develops. The fight developing right there on the line of scrimmage. Steve Sewell, I believe, number 30, and 52, Enberg, initially going at it, and that just exploded things. But there's Tippett. He's saying to Sammy Winder, you really don't want to fight with me. And Winder, you saw the smile on his face. No, sir. No, sir. Well, I guess we can find a little humor in this, but there's more tragedy if you happen to be a New England fan, or if you happen to be a player dressed in red and white here today, or a coach, any one of these members of this team who have fought so hard to get back and to have an opportunity at these playoffs.
57 on the offense. Personal foul. 26 on the defense. Penalties are all set. Number 57 on the offensive team has been ejected.
Mike Ruther, the center. Raymond Berry's team will finish 9-7. And it's conceivable that the winning team in the AFC West that won't have to play a wild card will be 8-8 if it's the Raiders. The Seattle Seahawks and their fans on the road will try to repeat their impressive win that they scored against the Raiders up in the Kingdome. If that's the case tomorrow, and you'll see it on NBC, it'll be Seattle into the playoffs. The Bronco report card. Elway, solid but not spectacular. Dorsett, outstanding game for him, 86 yards.
We shouldn't really say that New England is eliminated from the battle, because they're not, but they certainly are eliminated from controlling
the battle.
And that's what they have lost today, is an opportunity to assure themselves that playoff spot. Of course, if Cleveland wins tomorrow and Indianapolis loses tomorrow, they still happen to be able to go into the playoffs, and that's a very real possibility. There it is, accurately, but that's not the way they wanted to do it. This is a team that wanted to march into the playoffs with a victory today.
Well, both those things could happen tomorrow.
They well could.
Not without realism. That's not that long a shot.
I think what disappoints New England is that they really felt that they were playing the kind of football that they could come in here and, even with all of what Denver was feeling today, could go out and dominate this game and win it. And they have not been able to do it.
Well, they'll become fans like the rest of us tomorrow.
Well, a little more at stake. There are playoff checks still to be gained if they can get the right combination, but that's like standing at the table in Las Vegas and putting your money on boxcars.
Yeah, that's the 30-to-1 shots, yeah. Well, they spent their last time out, so now it's just the cosmetic exercise of taking the snap from center. And Denver, and it seems like a simple thing. I think the Collier dismissal has really spurred his team, and they played really at their optimum in there. Reuben Carter was a star. He was one of the big guys who did play well, and there's he's got to be fighting back tears, Collier.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of tears before this day is over, and there should be. You don't part with that kind of history and that kind of tradition and that kind of quality without a lot of pain. Without a lot of pain.
He's outlived everybody that he's coaching now in terms of the playing time.
Merle Moore on this side, the linebacker coach. Stan Jones has been here almost as long as Collier. Two long-time assistants, 18 years, 12 years.
On the positive side, the Broncos will not be a losing team this year. They will finish 8-8. As we heard Joe Gibbs earlier for Washington, that's important for coaches. They don't like to look at that less wins and losses season.
Even if it costs them a position or two in the draft, they're willing to take that. It sets a tone for this offseason, and that's important for all of these players.
There's a man who is our Budweiser most valuable player in this game, Greg Cragen. Budweiser will make a contribution to the United Way on behalf of all the MVPs selected in today's game. Not a big man as nose tackles go, but he led this Denver team in tackles for the year, and he played extremely well again today. Flag down. Appeared that the Broncos were early off the ball. Riga with a little shove. It seems, interestingly, it's the Denver guys that are picking the extracurricular action at this point, because we don't know what's being said down there. But
false start, offense, number 88, 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down, 4th down.
Interesting. 16 years ago, last time the Broncos played at home with nothing at stake, and it was 30 years ago, almost to the day, that Raymond Berry caught a dozen passes in New York, and the Colts beat the Giants in overtime on Alan Amichi's score. And one of the greatest games, if not the most memorable game in NFL history. It wasn't to be so dramatic today for Berry and his Patriots. And we're almost to a point now where they ought to just call this thing off.
Somebody liable to get hurt. You see the officials throwing themselves in between those players. I know it's their job. Well, I tell you one thing, that's not a job I'd want. Those officials don't have on helmets. They don't have on shoulder pads.
There's still a lot of verbiage going on, and obvious challenging of one's manly integrity here.
One of my old teammates, Gary Lane, the side judge down there today, one of those involved. You see them trying to face off with the players. Nothing to be gained in this kind of emotional skirmish.
Here's Clarence Kay. Ooh, man.
Something said, obviously, by Lawrence McGrew to Kay on that particular situation, and Clarence Kay did not hesitate at all.
Boy, he got a solid right hand to the midsection. He knew not to go to the face mask.
About the only place you can hit. I'll tell you this, I watched and participated in a few of those fights, and with all those uniform protections on, it's kind of silly. Dan Reeves wants to know why somebody didn't get kicked out of the game. Well, Dan, we saw one of your guys throw a punch. Maybe it should have been Clarence Kay.
Been a candidate, wouldn't he? Patrick Bowlen, the Denver owner, who's already started to draw the plans for 1989.
It's more than just a review of Collier and his defense. It's a review of direction, a review of their scouting system, which has been very ineffective.
On Denver, number 88. I have personal foul on New England, number 26. I have personal foul on New England, number 38. Penalties are offset. There's New England's ball. 1st and 10.
That is silly.
That's a long list, isn't it?
That's almost silly. You know, you had to throw them out. Let's play the game. And this is in a season when this game typifying the integrity of the league. These situations, I think, could be handled better. I mean, the officials can only do what they're told to do.
Flutie will get there. Yes, he will.
As they take over and downs at the 40-yard line.
He's done this before.
At Boston College, he gets it all the way to the end zone, where it's intercepted by Randy Robbins. And Flutie, as Robbins carries it out, hustles downfield and forces the fumble, but Robbins recovers. And meanwhile, away from the play, some elbows and forearms being thrown.
Not any question about Flutie's arm strength. That was a 65, 70-yard pass in the air. Well, there was a smile from Joe Collier.
And Flutie, wisely, everyone else just relaxed, figuring, well, it's over. And Robbins, of course, has the option to run it out. And Flutie was the first man downfield, swings around and bats it away. That's a pretty good effort. It's the kind of play, though, you better have eyes in the back of your head. You want to know where everyone is.
Show you what kind of competitor Flutie is. That's definite.
Here's a guy who could play. The Colts linebacker still leads the NFL. 37 interceptions as a linebacker. He was the roommate of Barry with the Colts. Well, the executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer of NBC's football, Ted Nathanson. Coordinating producer, NFL Live, John J. Filippelli. Today's game was produced by Kenneth Roy Edmondson, directed by Andy Rosenberg. NFL Live, produced by Ricky Diamond and Tom Roy. NFL Live, directed by Bucky Gunst. Technical directors Mike Strominski and Richard Sansevier. Joe Costanza and our crew in the booth, Brad Pearson, Merritt Cohen, Ray Friedman, Cliff Dodge. That's it. The season is over for Denver. They finish 8-8. Well, I got 2 more seconds.
Well,
there's no timeouts. Well, there's a flag down.
Get the Denver Bronco players out of the locker room if they continue this game.
It can't end on a penalty if it's both sides that are guilty. And that would be the guess. New England will finish 9-7. Maybe will go on, but it will require
face mask on number 60
tomorrow.
On the defense. Fouled by the defense in the last 30 seconds. The game is over by rule.
So it was just the defense that fouled, and the game declared over by the officials. The season is not over for Raymond Barry. It is, unless they get a lot of help. And for Dan Reeves, a chance to think about next year and the changes that need to be made before then.
21-10. Denver, for the moment, has spoiled the Patriots.
Beginning at 12:30 Eastern Time. Ahmad with the...
Better late than never, Les. I cannot enlighten you as of yet. We just did get into the locker room, and I was over there listening to Dan Reeves. He had not yet addressed the situation. Maybe we can get into it with the linebacker Jim Ryan, who was here. We're live. Thanks for coming over. I thought your team showed a lot of character today, especially your defense. You stopped a pretty good running game, except for a couple of plays by Stevens, but you kept him out of the end zone.
Well, on grass, we've done all right this year. It's not really a surprise or anything, so we just wanted to go out and play hard. We just wanted to have fun today. We were real loose. Nothing was really on the line except trying to play well to end the season.
What was the feeling like this week? There's been so much written and said about changes, who's coming, who's going. Was it unusual playing a game in that type of setting?
It is, because we haven't done it in a long time. Every game we've played has been playoff possibilities. It's really something's been on the line. So it was a little different. No one really knows what's going to happen now. They're talking about a whole lot of changes in that. You start looking, do they mean me? Do they mean this guy and all? And so it is a little strange.
Have you thought about that personally?
Not to put you on the spot. No, you're not putting me on the spot, because I've been getting the question already whether I'm going to retire or not. And I have a pat answer, and I think there's a lot of things that go into that decision. I'm going to evaluate my health. I'm going to evaluate what my family thinks, what the coaches think my role can be, and just where I am professionally. And all those things go into making up a decision.
I was watching the bench at the end of the game, which was long and drawn out because of the fights, and I saw a lot of emotion between Joe Collier and his defense. I saw a lot of hugs. I saw a lot of hugs between Joe and Merle. I know you can't talk about what was talked about in meetings, but what does the future hold for the defensive coaches?
Well, I think it's a big unknown. It's a big question mark, and that's why I think that maybe people are just looking at maybe this is the last one, and whether it will be, we'll find out. I think that it'll probably be a few weeks before we find out.
You've been here a long time, and I'll let you go on this question. Don't you think, because you've played for them for a decade, that the fellas that are being talked about, Joe, Merrill Moore, Stan Jones, all of them, wouldn't you as a leader on the defense like to see them return?
Absolutely. I mean, if for nothing else, Joe Collier's the guy that gave me my start. I mean, I owe him a lot. That's just a personal feeling. But the guy's been coaching for 20 years, has been successful for 20 years. So, yeah, I would love to see him stay, because I think he can build this defense back up.
So, I mean, as far as you're concerned, the game has not passed him by.
No, I don't think so at all. I think that he's really been still innovative as the game has changed so much.
I appreciate you coming by.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, Ron.
Jim Ryan. Dave Studdard is here as well. Congratulations. I know that the second half of the season was fun for you personally.
Well, I finally got to play a little bit more, and I won 2 out of 4 starts, I guess. So I guess it was kind of an accomplishment. I felt like I did all right, and he held up really good.
I thought this team showed some character playing that kind of a game under these conditions in a game that really didn't mean that much to you.
Well, I think the game was just for pride. We didn't have anything to win except the ball game, and no chance to playoffs or anything. And I thought everybody laid it on the line really well. And you got to give the guys credit for going out and do things like that.
You know, I asked Jim a minute ago. I want to ask you the same thing. And you know this. There's been so much written and said this week about players that may be coming and going, coaches that are coming and going. How unsettling is it to try and play a football game under that type of setting?
Well, my name hadn't been mentioned as far as retiring or anything, so I really hadn't worried about it. But I'm sure my name's going to come up when it as evaluating players and say, well, it's Beetle Dave's 10th, 11th year in the league. Can he still do it? I think I still can, and I'll just wait to see what Dan has to say to me on whether or not he wants me to come back. And that's all I can do.
Hey, it's good to see you back, and I'm glad you're healthy, and I look forward to seeing you next year.
Thanks, Ron. Me too.
Okay, Dave Studdard, who certainly came on strong second half of the season. So, Les, until we can talk to Pat Bowlen, and let me just say, I just walked in when you came to me. I'd been over in Dan Reeves' news conference. He's not yet addressed the coach's situation. You heard what Jim Ryan said. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. People just don't know, and we don't know how much the players can say, but we'll attempt to find out what is going on. We'll attempt to talk with Pat Bowlen, and we'll have that for you tonight at 10 o'clock. Ron Zappolo, News 4 from the Bronco locker room at Mile High Stadium.
All right, thanks, Ron. We'll see you again at 10. Kathy?
Okay. Peter.
Big rebound in the weather.
Big changes. We haven't been able to get anything done. But when you win one of those, it gives you a little confidence, and I think that builds when we go into camp.
And you really came out in the last few games this season, didn't you? Had big offense.
Yeah. We've moved the ball. It took us too long to get our timing down. I think maybe if we start a little early next year or spend a little more time with that next year as far as the routes and stuff like that, we'll be right back on track, I think.
Things got a little chippy out there at the end. Frustration on the Patriots' part?
I think so. You know, they're battling for a playoff spot. We had nothing to do but spoil, and it was a very physical game all the way through. That's one thing. It was very physical.
Okay, thank you, Mark Jackson. And let's see, we got Greg Cragen coming in. Defense, Greg, which was much maligned after the Seattle game. You know, it's hard to figure. You have one game, you look fine. Today, 10 points, great effort.
Yeah, it always seems like we play better at home. I don't know why.
Very, very costly loss for the Patriots, although Claiborne manufactures a nifty 23-yard run back into Denver Bronco territory. Then from the Bronco 23, New England's fine rookie John Stevens bounces to the outside, runs by Jeremiah Castile. It's a 23-yard score, 7-0 Patriots. Back come the Broncos, and yes, it's the forgotten man, Tony Dorsett. Dorsett ripping off 27 yards out to the New England 49-yard line. The drive carried to the one where Sammy Winder punched it in, and the Broncos had tied it at 7. After forcing the Patriots to punt, the Broncos drove again. Elway with all day to throw hits Mark Jackson over the middle, and Jackson converts it into a 32-yard gain to the New England 23. 3 plays later, Elway gives to Tony D. Sammy Winder, a great lead block, touchdown, 14-7 Broncos. Late in the half, the Pats' Jason Starosky hits from 32 yards to cut it to 14-10. New England got it right back on a turnover, but a poor snap led to a Starosky miss, and it was 14-10 at the break. Third quarter, John Stevens rips off another run. Again, there is nobody on the outside, and before he's done, Stevens will ramble 53 yards all the way down to the Bronco 11-yard line. But the defense dug in, and on 4th down at the 2, Tony Eason's rollout shot falls incomplete, and the Broncos held at 14-10. The defense was fired up. Eason wants to throw, but he can't. Walt Boyer eventually pulling him down for the sack. The Broncos then proceeded to put it away. Sammy Winder banged in from 4 yards out to make it 21-10. The defense then a couple of more stands, and the Broncos close out 88 winners, 21-10. And I think the defense was trying to make a statement.
Well, they're trying to win one for Joe Collier going out, and it looked like the guys played for their jobs today, finally, on the last game of the season.
Well, Mike Hafner took in the action over at the stadium. He is standing by live over in the Bronco locker room. Mike, take it away.
Thanks, Brian, and I'm standing here with a guy who had a heck of a day running the football, Sammy Winder. First, Sammy, you've got to be torn. Season's over with. Get this one behind you, yet you finish up with a win.
Well, that was our intention, to go out and finish up with a win, and to do that, we had to go out and execute, you know, in both phases of the game. But I don't think it's really set in yet that, you know, we're not going to the playoffs. You know, I think when we see those other teams playing in the playoffs, we can say, you know, we could have very easily been there, you know, but we can't win them all. Certainly we would like to, but, you know, it gives us, now we just got to look forward to next year and come out and do a better job.
You and Tony had an excellent day running the football, both of you.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, we had talked about it, you know, during the week that we was going to go out and make our last one a good one, you know. And so, you know, he did a great job, and you know, offensive line did a great job of blocking.
You scored, that one touchdown looked like you were so determined. You said, there's no way they're going to keep me out of there.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to get in, you know. I wanted to get up and do my dance, but the ref didn't give me the signal in time, and I didn't want to get a penalty on the team and stuff, but it was great to get in there.
Sammy, good job today. All right. Sammy Winder, the running back for the Denver Broncos. You saw a couple of those touchdowns today, Brian and John. And one of the things here in the locker room that everyone was concerned about was, what's the fate of Joe Collier? You guys have talked about it. I've got a feeling that the players on defense know what the fate of Collier is and have been told not to say anything, guys. And it's kind of a somber locker room when you ask somebody about the defensive players about Joe Collier. They don't have much to say, and they say, we're not talking about it.
Mike, do you get any indication over there from talking to the players, even though they don't want to go on camera and discuss it, when we might know for sure? How long are they going to drag this out?
Well, one of the problems is Patrick Bowen had a flight out of here immediately after the game. In fact, he's gone to the airport, and everyone speculated that with him leaving, they definitely wouldn't make an announcement. I would imagine, and the rumors are flying around here that he definitely is gone, that they will make it sometime after the holidays. There's also a rumor going around that Bill Waltz is going to San Diego and would love to have Joe Collier as his defensive coordinator. So, as I said, lots of speculation, lots of rumors, but the feeling around here is that Joe Collier won't be the defensive coordinator next year.
Mike, the longer they drag this out, the more rumors there will be, like the ones you just mentioned. I don't care what they feel about the job Joe Collier and his coaches did over there this year. He does not deserve to be hung out on a limb after 20 years of hard service for the Broncos. I think if they're going to make the cut, they ought to make it clean and get it over with.
I agree with you, and one of the things you have to look at is the draft. Since 1981, they have done a very poor job since the pick of Dennis Smith as far as defensive stars, and Joe's been doing it with Mears for all that time and been very successful. It's tough when a guy goes 8-8 defensive-wise that he has to take the problems for it. And it's a shame for Joe Collier, but you can't fire all the players in the front office, so it looks like Collier is going to be the scapegoat.
Very quickly, Mike, is it a dismissal or a resignation? What are you hearing?
I would imagine that because of his 21 years of service here, that they will allow him to resign.
Okay, Mike.
He's good hands, but Greg Mills reports that with all that going for him, he'll still have a tough time making the team.
When the Broncos drafted Steve Atwater, it was front-page news. That's what happens when you're a team's first-round pick. But have you ever heard of John Javis? He went to the Broncos in the same draft this year that produced Atwater. But John Javis went in the 12th round, the final round. 12th rounders aren't front-page news.
After the draft, you know, as far as 12th round, first round, you know, all of it's the same. You're in the same place, so you treat everybody out here the same.
And are you treated the same? Are you treated the same as a first-rounder?
Yeah, I can say I am, because when Atwater's called, you hear Javis' name, so everybody's out here, they treat the same.
Well, not quite. First-rounders generally make the team. 12th rounders generally don't. But John Javis might have an advantage others don't have. I've heard he might be the fastest player drafted this year.
No, I wouldn't say I'm the fastest man in the draft, but on a good day, I can get in there on my head and I'll do my thing with him.
At Howard University, Javis used that speed as a kick returner. He'd like to return kicks for the Broncos, and he'll play wide receiver, too.
Now, you're a wide receiver. They got a couple guys named Vance Johnson, Ricky Nattil. You know about these guys.
Yes, I do. I've been watching them for a while, and they're pretty tough act to follow. Now, I'm out here, and I'm going to try to do my best, and maybe I can beat our fourth man.
To get that fourth spot, Javis has to beat out Steve Watson and a host of others. Greg Mills, Channel 2 Sports.
Broncos signed Septien. They were flooded with protests for signing a man who had been involved in an incident in Dallas involving a young girl. As John Keating reports, Septien is hoping for a second chance.
Again, nobody's perfect. Whomever has no sin throw the first stone.
His comeback is a battle on two fronts, winning a job and winning over a public which, fair or not, has labeled him a deviant. 2 years ago, Septien was charged with indecency with a child, a 10-year-old neighbor girl. He was convicted of nothing, having plea bargained to a lesser offense, while admitting that sexual contact did take place.
It was minor touching or incidental touching, accidental, and even if you just touch an arm close or a leg, they're going to say, you know, anything they want. So I was just going through my advice of my attorneys, and that would be the best thing in that case, because after 2 years, I have no record, and the main thing is let my kicking do the talking. I have my probation officers. I have the psychiatrists that they recommend me to go over there, they're all in favor of me to come over here because they believe, you know, that I'm a healthy individual, a healthy person, and the kids shouldn't have any problem or they shouldn't be afraid of me at all.
In his day, he was one of the most prolific kickers in NFL history. But his comeback has more to it than just the uprights. Rafael Septien, though, is taking first things first. From Bronco headquarters, John Keating, KMGH 7 Sports.
And the Broncos today welcome the newest member of their defensive unit. Defensive end Kevin Brooks checked into the team headquarters and didn't waste any time jumping into the workouts. The Broncos traded for Brooks yesterday, giving Dallas what will likely turn out to be a 3rd and 5th round draft choices. Across the past 2 seasons, Brooks started 26 games for the Cowboys at defensive tackle, but the Cowboys felt he never developed the potential that made him a 1st-round draft pick 4 years ago. Brooks figures the Broncos could be a fresh start.
It's tough for #1 draft choices. You know, everybody has their expectations about #1s, but, you know, you have to realize #1s are human, too. And, you know, we come in, and this is a new start, and you have to get the right situation for the right person, just like, you know, your job. You have to get the right paper for you or whatever. So, you know, it's just hopefully this is the right situation with Kevin Brooks, and I can help Denver out in any way I can.
Time today, Septien began working out with the Broncos at their headquarters yesterday. He has been the center of controversy since signing as a free agent. A lot of Bronco fans didn't want him here after his highly publicized incident involving a young girl in Dallas 2 years ago. Some fans even brought a petition to the Broncos. Septien understands their concern, but says he just wants a chance.
The public has its own opinion in that area, and I respect that. I think some they don't know exactly what happened, and they have to have their own understanding. Main thing is that if Coach Reeves, everybody respects Coach Reeves in that area, and if Coach Reeves has given me this opportunity, that means that you know, he studied the case and he believes in me and the organization, and I'm just thankful for them to give me this opportunity.
The Broncos' newest player, Kevin Brooks, arrived today. He's one of the biggest, 6'6", 297, traded yesterday from Dallas to Denver to help shore up the Broncos' defensive line.
On a day-to-day basis, they will see that, you know, I'm just a normal individual that, you know, fears God and like to compete and loves sports. And sports is my life, and the main thing is I'm here because they have made a study. The NFL cleared me out, and Coach Reeves believes in me, and that's about it.
Rafael Septien, Bronco defensive coordinator Wade Phillips says even with the arrival of Brooks and Carricker and many others, the Broncos basically will still be a 3-4 defense this year. And there are reports tonight that the Broncos are interested in Bears safety Dave Duerson. He's having contract problems.
These new revelations that Rafael Septien admitted having sexual contact with a 10-year-old girl 2 years ago in Dallas, and really that is only news if you don't watch Channel 7, because that was a story that we had last Tuesday. So much for Rafael Septien, but that story is not necessarily news.
Yeah, but you can imagine it's going to be brought up again and again during training camp.
Yes, and the other stations did that tonight, as a matter of fact. They're bringing it up again and again. But to other matters.
To other matters.
A Pro Bowl defensive player is available and wants to play in Denver. Too good to be true, you say? Well, sadly, you're probably right. 7 Sports has learned that Bears safety Dave Duerson today contacted the Broncos with written authorization from the Chicago management that he can seek out his own trade. Duerson is involved in a heated contract dispute with the Bears. He's after $800,000 a year. Chicago's top offer is said to be $690,000. Duerson's agent, Jim Doherty, told me from his office in Miami that Denver is one of a handful of teams in which the bone-jarring safety is interested. But beyond the salary, Duerson carries a hefty price tag. The Bears reportedly want a pair of #1 draft picks in return, and you'll remember Denver gave up their #1 a couple of weeks ago, having selected Bobby Humphrey in the supplemental draft. And above it all, on a Broncos team with several holes, safety is not one of them. Well, believe me, I have no personal knowledge upon which to call, but it seems to me that multimillionaires get to be multimillionaires by being fairly headstrong. Placement for Pete Rozelle. The owners met again today in Chicago with no progress in the squabble between the league's old guard and the new. That man, Jim Finks, remains the favorite, but now there is some feeling that the dissident owners who have pressured their way onto the selection committee will come up with their own names. And there is one report that Tex Schramm will be named interim commissioner. Come football season, people may stop heading to Las Vegas and
Opinion on his contract status. Now, Carlos, the team's kicker since '82, told by Bronco general manager John Beek that he's not eligible for a raise this year because he was left as an unprotected free agent, and they can't give unprotected free agents raises. That is not true. A number of players in the same situation have been given new contracts with raises. Now, Carlos, who reportedly makes in the neighborhood of $300,000 a year, told Peter Rogat today that he's somewhat disappointed with the situation.
I know that I can kick in this league, and you know, we're not going to be intimidated about this. You know, the fact is that I've never complained about the money I make. I feel very well compensated, and we've never had a problem in the past. And the only thing that bothers myself and bothers my attorney is that John Beek told us verbatim that he had no control. The league said that he wasn't allowed to give anyone else a raise. And I took him for that. I mean, I've always respected John and always enjoyed that relationship. And, you know, I'm just a little bit surprised to find out that that was not the truth.
We'll have more with Rich on the training camp update coming up in a minute.
Picked to sign his contract. Hamilton from North Carolina, a third-round selection. Also signed today, veteran safety Tyrone Braxton. Should be a lot more signings tomorrow. Rookie camp opens on Thursday. America's great.
By the Village Inn restaurants. The popular and successful Broncos place kicker, Rich Carlos. Tonight, he implies that Broncos management is lying about whether they can or cannot increase his pay. Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Rogat. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We'll bring you up to date on the latest Broncos signings. We'll talk about the competition at the place kicker position, and we'll hear more from a very disappointed Rich Carlos. Finally, we'll check out some of that vaunted Vance Johnson speed off the field. A lot on our plates, so let's get right to it. Two signings to report. They are third-year safety Tyrone Braxton and third-round draft pick Darrell Hamilton. That leaves a dozen unsigned draft picks and 9 veteran free agents. Among them, Rich Carlos.
You know, we're not going to be intimidated about this. You know,
this is Broncos general manager John Beek offering Carlos the same money as last year, claiming league rules forbid a raise to a Plan B free agent like Carlos. Well, it turns out other such free agents have gotten raises. So in Carlos's eyes, Beek lied.
I mean, if John and I have this great relationship, then John needs to say, hey, you stunk last year. We're not going to give you a raise. And if you want to play football for us, you know, this is the way it's going to be. But, you know, now it's gotten past that.
Carlos had a subpar 88 campaign, a year in which he made $300,000. He faces competition this summer from 2 kickers, David Treadwell, a second-year man who spent time with Phoenix, and Raphael Septien. Septien's plea bargain to indecency with a child in Dallas threatens to obscure his competition for a Broncos job. Treadwell's kicking accuracy is his strong suit. The length of his kickoffs isn't. Treadwell says he's improved.
It must be a combination of the running, the lifting, and the working on it real hard. But it has improved since I've been here in the month.
In the end, few expect anyone but Rich Carlos to kick for the Broncos in 1989. Contract problems and all.
My bottom line is that I want to kick, and I want to kick for the Denver Broncos.
When we return, the fast world of the Vance Broncos. Well, before training camp begins, we can tell you one thing remains the same. The man you know as number 82 in orange is still the Vance. The addition of a ponytail doesn't seem to have slowed Vance down. In fact, he's going full throttle. Today, the Vance found himself head-to-head with the Big Daddy, Don Garlits. Garlits' drag racing exploits are well documented. The pair hooked up at Bandimere Speedway to promote their real race Sunday, which is open to the public at 10:30 in the morning. It will benefit the day treatment program at the Denver Children's Center.
I don't think being fast on the football field has anything to do with driving a car.
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't really driven fast as my Porsche has been in the shop, and I haven't been driving it after I got in and out and everything, so I get a chance to do it legally now and not get a ticket. How's that?
Then it was time to stop talking and start driving. The Vance won one heat, Big Daddy took one, leaving only the grudge match Sunday.
I'm going to have my red car. The real one. The red car is the best.
Well, that's the challenge then, Sunday. Be there.
Vance Johnson. Here's what's on tap for tomorrow. Undoubtedly more player signings, and anything else that happens on or off the field, we'll have it for you That's it for now. From Broncos headquarters, I'm Peter Rogat saying so long.
The Broncos preseason up.
Take a look at all. The 89 version of Denver Bronco training camp is officially open today, with rookies and free agents taking physicals in Denver this morning. And then, well, they run through their dreaded 40-yard dashes as they go on the field, and they have other tests this afternoon in Greeley. Lots of activity off the field today. The Broncos signed one veteran player this evening, running back Steve Sewell, now in the fold. They also signed 3 draft choices earlier in the day. Wide receiver Anthony Stafford, a 6th-round pick from Oklahoma. USC tight end Paul Green, an 8th-round draft choice. And the team's 12th-round pick, John Javis, a wide receiver from Howard. They also cut a couple of players, former CU player Mike Marquez and offensive guard Bill Michelle. That leaves 11 players still unsigned, 5 rookies and 6 veterans. 2-a-days begin tomorrow in pads in Greeley.
All when it comes to injuries.
Exactly. What is shoulder?
Shoulder this time, that's right. Running back Gerald Wilhite, often injured during his 7 years in Denver, injured again. Working out with the other veterans this morning in just shorts, T-shirts, and helmets, Wilhite fell while trying to catch a pass from John Elway and separated his shoulder, as you can see. The Broncos feel he'll be out a month. As for how this will affect his chances of making the team,
certainly doesn't help. The good part is that nobody knows our offense any better. So from a mental standpoint, Gerald's not going to fall behind. It's hopefully, you know, physically he'll come around in time that you know, it's not too late.
Oh, it's a setback for me, and it hurts my feelings that I worked so hard this offseason to show people that I can play and stay healthy, and then something like this happened.
How do you think it'll affect your ability to compete for a job?
I don't know. You know, like I said, I'll be ready, and whatever happens, happens. I can't control that, but I'm in good shape, and I'm very disappointed I'm hurt, and I will work like the dickens to get back.
Gerald Wilhite, the Broncos today signed offensive lineman Winford Hood, and to make room, they released rookie tackle Brian White out of BYU.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Alvarez of the Broncos training camp in Greeley as they continue their workouts against the Phoenix Cardinals. Coming up in just a moment, we'll show you a couple of the little guys. They may be small, but they were big-time fighters this morning. And the first major injury of training camp, one of the veteran running backs has gone down. Plus, we'll talk to the Big O, Orson Mobley. The running back, Gerald Wilhite, separated his shoulder while diving for a pass. He could be out 4 to 6 weeks. And if they have to put him on injured reserve during training camp, he must stay on IR the rest of the season.
With me, personally, I take it as a challenge because I don't think it could get me down. And there's definitely not no shoulder separation would make me want to retire. That's crazy. A major knee surgery, maybe, but a shoulder, nah. To me, that's something I'll get over with in 3 or 4 weeks, maybe shorter.
Gerald Wilhite is a great athlete, but he's been plagued with injuries ever since he came to Denver. In last year's training camp, Steve Watson stepped on his foot and broke his toe. Just another case of bad luck. Some people call him injury-prone. He doesn't see it that way.
I'd say bad luck, but not injury-prone, because when I say injury-prone, is a personally, well, some people would say it's injury-prone, so I don't know. I guess it's your own person's judgment. I wouldn't say it.
The Broncos and the Cardinals will end their 3 days of workouts tomorrow with a scrimmage at about 10:30. Today, a pretty good fight between Bronco wide receiver Anthony Stafford and the Cardinals' Kevin Lewis. Call this one the lightweight division battle. Both men, great form with the takedowns, and then everybody gets into the act. They can get together with the WWF for the next WrestleMania. Speaking of big acts, how about the Big O, Orson Mobley, the Broncos' veteran tight end? He came to camp slim and trim and discovered that it's the only way to go.
Tell you what, I don't think I'd be able to make it if I was carrying more weight.
So you can't imagine being as heavy as you used to be, huh?
Nah.
It's too bad you didn't learn that lesson a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's true too, you know, but, you know, I learned the lesson the hard way, and, like I say, you know, it's been a good tool for me to learn from.
In the past, Mobley needed pants with expanding waistlines as he tasted life in the 260, 270, and even into the 280-pound range. But this summer, he pushed himself away from the dinner table, and because of that, he can push himself harder on the field. He comes to camp at a svelte 256. He's moving quicker and feeling better. So at least for now, he's gotten over being overweight. Time to work on the other part, his mental health. It was a tough offseason. Mobley felt the Broncos showed little interest. Contract negotiations dragged to a halt. He missed a minicamp. Well, they finally worked it all out, and Mobley is once again a happy training camper.
once you get it behind you and both sides are happy, then you can come in and do what you got to do.
So you can forget about the business part and just play football.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
I know you've gotten over what happened in the offseason. Think coaches ever hold grudges? Honestly?
I say for a while. But, you know, once you get in here and they see you working hard and you perform at that level you're able to perform, then, you know, everything's forgotten.
And so far, he's done nothing to make Dan Reeves remember. Maybe this time around, we can finally see the potential in Orson Mobley realized. He knows now that it takes both body and soul. How much did that hurt you in the past when maybe you weren't in the right frame of mind?
It's hurt a lot. It's hurt a lot. And like I said, you know, sometimes you have to learn the lessons the hard way, and I have. And, you know, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to play.
As long as you learn them, that's the key.
That's right.
And we'll be back tomorrow night with another Bronco Camp update.
Pat Bolin, especially with scalp laceration today, wish you would have had one. You know, it's like locking the barn door after that. Next time, I bet you they wear helmets. Broncos owner Pat Bolin and former Bronco kicker Jim Turner banged up but escaped serious injury when their bikes collided near the team headquarters this afternoon. Bolin suffered a broken right collarbone and head lacerations, while Turner was hospitalized with 4 cracked ribs and a possible shoulder separation. Shortly after noon, Bolin and Turner were ready for a 50-mile ride to the training camp in Greeley, a yearly ride for Bolin. He invited Turner this year. Block and a half away, they hit a chuck hole filled with water, and Bolin fell on Turner. Our 9 News crew came upon the mishap, took them back to the office, then they went to the hospital. Needless to say, we didn't stop to take pictures after the accident happened. Big story, though, at the Broncos camp was off the field today as holdout linebacker Simon Fletcher came to terms on a series of contracts. Steve Alvarez will have our Broncos update in just a few minutes. Also,
He's have 1-year contracts. He'll be suited up tomorrow. Tomorrow they will go twice a day again at 9:15 and 3:15 if you want to come up and watch him here in Greeley. Tonight we take a look at one of the most popular Broncos ever, wide receiver Steve Watson. He came in here as an unknown free agent. He became one of the greatest receivers in Bronco history. A lot of people, however, think Steve Watson is history. It's going to be awful tough for him to make this team this year, but Steve faces the challenge head on.
I'll look back when it's all over and reflect a little bit. But right now, I've really got a battle ahead of me, and that excites me because it's the biggest one of my career.
Steve Watson's brilliant 10-year career is nearly over. He's already said this will be his last season. But if the Broncos don't keep him, you won't see him do what other aging veterans have done. He won't tag on with another team.
I don't feel comfortable with that thought. We pretty much made our home here in Denver, and at this particular point, if I had to do something like that, I don't think I would do it.
Instead, he chooses to stand and fight here in Greeley. And when Steve Watson does battle, you can never count him out. He's proven too many people wrong in the past decade. His chances of making it for an 11th straight year are not good, but he thinks they're getting better.
Initially, I thought I had maybe a 70-30 chance of making it, 70 against 34, and at this point, I think the odds have gotten a little better in my favor, just from the way I feel and just some conversation I've had.
I take it you mean in the fact that the Broncos are going to give you every opportunity to make this team?
I feel like that. I really do. I'm excited about the thought of it. Initially, like I said, I didn't have the idea in mind that I was going to get a fair shot. I thought for sure that it was made very clear to me that they were looking for a younger player. But now I can see I do have an opportunity to make this football team, and I'm pretty excited about that.
The three amigos are the new stars, but Watson holds no resentment. Instead, he wants to help them get the most out of their abilities, the way he's done it for a decade.
Just looking at them, I really feel like I can give them something. And maybe, I don't know why I have that thought. I'm competing with them for my job, but I really feel this need to share my knowledge. And I feel like we can become a better receiving corps if I could just show a few things to these guys.
But make no mistake, Watson isn't here just to pass on his knowledge to the next generation. He's fighting his greatest fight, hoping for one more year. He came into this league as an unknown free agent. He knows what it's like to be the underdog.
I equate this with my rookie year. Starting from scratch, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I've got to prove myself all over again, as if I haven't already, but it's just one of those things. It's the nature of the game. You come in on the bottom of the ladder and you go out on the bottom of the ladder.
Steve Watson is far from that. He is one of the best ever to play the game for Denver. Not many people are betting on him to make the team, but not many would bet against him either.
His holdout today. He signed a series of one-year contracts. It also means the Broncos are one man over the roster limit, so someone has to get cut tomorrow. Meantime, the Greeley Heat is making the guys a little irritable today. Sean Knight got into it with offensive lineman Winford Hood. No damage done. They'll probably eat dinner together tonight. Well, maybe dessert. Right after the news tonight, Ron Zappola will have the Broncos preseason update. More on what went on today, including
the L.A. Rams, Saturday, August 12th at 7 on Channel 4.
Steve Atwater suddenly. He's the safety out of Arkansas. The Broncos still have two unsigned draft picks, Bobby Humphrey and Melvin Bratton. Steve Alvarez joins us live now from Greeley. Steve, any word on getting those two guys into camp?
Well, actually, Steve Atwater's signing should help a great deal because he was taken 20th in the regular draft. Bobby Humphrey in a similar position, 17th in the supplemental draft. So Steve Atwater's figure gives them a base in which to work from when they negotiate. They would expect that Bobby Humphrey could be here quickly, but as Pat Bowlen and Dan Reeves said about Melvin Bratton, they don't expect anything to happen because he still wants first-round money. But right now, the story, of course, is that the Broncos' new kid is here. Safety Steve Atwater practiced for the first time this afternoon after signing a contract at midday. Atwater and his agent reached agreement with the Broncos late yesterday. This afternoon, he worked out with the team. Didn't do that much, but is 2 weeks behind. But even though he missed a lot of workouts, Tom, Dan Reeves thinks Atwater can make a big impact this season because Atwater attended the Broncos rookie and developmental camp. That helped. Even though he's missed practice, at least in theory, he knows the defense. What's up, Jibbo?